we present Anna Massey and Trader Faulkner in Requiem for a Wren, adapted by Stephen Grenfell from the novel by Nevil Shute. Requiem for a Wren.
You know, Dad, somehow I can't really believe that our only remaining son is coming back to us at last. This Friday. It just doesn't seem possible.
Tremendous, isn't it?
Oh, what a lovely morning we've been blessed with.
It's a bonza day.
I wonder what Alan will look like after all this time.
Oh, I don't suppose he'll have changed much.
Well, he's a good deal older. Do you realize that the war's been over nearly 9 years and he's only been back here at home once?
This time, my dear, I've got a feeling that Alan's coming home to settle down.
Oh, I do hope so. So very much.
What about some tucker?
Dad, you'll be calling for breakfast on Judgment Day.
Madam!
What on earth's the matter with Annie?
Madam, a terrible thing has happened. Oh, a dreadful thing.
Annie, pull yourself together. What is it?
Oh, madam, she's dead.
What?
She's dead.
Who's dead?
Jessie. She's dead. The poor young woman's dead.
Jessie? But she's getting our breakfast.
Now, Annie, take it quietly. What's happened? Where is Jessie?
She's in her room, sir.
But Annie...
When I saw it was 7:30, and she hadn't come down. I went up to her room. I knew that she must be ill.
Annie.
Well, I knocked on her door. There wasn't any answer.
Oh, God.
Oh, madam, she's lying there in her bed, just as though she's still sleeping. Her face is peaceful and innocent as a wee baby.
Annie, are you certain the girl's dead?
I'm quite certain, Colonel Duncan. She's already cold.
I just can't understand it.
On the table next to the bed there's a wee bottle, madam. A wee empty bottle.
Oh, that placid, happy girl. Suicide. Oh, I just can't believe it.
Oh, it's the truth, sir. God rest her soul. It's only too true.
What a homecoming for my son.
Seatbelt, Mr. Duncan.
Oh, what did you say?
Fasten your seatbelt, please. The warning's been on for ages.
Oh, sorry. I was miles away.
I know.
Haven't seen Essendon Airport for 5 years.
You're from Melbourne?
My hometown. Well, Coombagana, really.
Sheep station?
Yes, out beyond Skipton and Forfar.
When we land, would you like any help down the gangway?
It's clever of you to realize that going downstairs is the tricky part.
Oh, I didn't mean to embarrass you.
You haven't, really.
The wharf?
Yes. I'm all right if I'm allowed to take my time. I'll just wait till all the other passengers are off, I think.
Right. I'll be around anyway. Just give me a shout if there's anything at all I can do.
Thanks.
You should have sent us a telegram, Alan.
Oh, darling, we were sure that you wouldn't be here until Friday.
I flew another route just for the hell of it. New York, San Francisco, Sydney. Quite a trip.
You got here safely, darling. That's all that matters.
Mother,
Yes, dear.
driving from the airport, Harry told me about what's been happening here.
Harry should learn to keep his mouth shut.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Dad, you didn't think you could keep a thing like that a secret, did you?
Oh, no, I suppose not.
We didn't want to spoil your homecoming.
This parlour maid, what's her name?
Jessie. Jessie Proctor.
Jessie Proctor. You say she was English.
That's right, son.
Did you get her through a registry office, Mum?
No, that was the funny thing.
Funny.
Well, she just turned up here one day, working her way around the world with a rucksack on her back.
So I offered her a job here. Now, darling, let's talk about something else, shall we? This is your homecoming, and I won't let anything spoil it.
This has been a great shock to us.
Is there going to be an inquest, Dad?
It seems so.
Mum, why did the girl go and do a thing like that? Was she depressed or something?
I don't think so. She was a very, reserved sort of girl, Alan. She didn't talk about herself or her affairs.
Was she an attractive girl? Was there a man?
Well, she was rather plain, if anything. Oh, it wasn't that, I'm sure.
Then what on earth possessed her to do a damn fool thing like that?
I'm sure it was an accident, Alan.
An accident?
Yes. I think she took a sleeping tablet to help her to get some rest. Then she had a nightmare and got up, walking in her sleep, and somehow felt in her dream she had to take the rest of the tablets. I'm certain that's what it was.
The bottle was empty.
No, Alan, there were 2 tablets left in it.
But, Dad, surely if she was going to commit suicide, she'd have taken the lot. I mean, she'd want to make sure, wouldn't she?
Well,
let's talk about something else.
Oh, Mum, that's not like you. You can't just shrug off a thing like a young woman's suicide.
I'm not shrugging it off.
Did she get any letters yesterday?
Well, she never received any letters at all.
No letters? Well, isn't that very unusual? Did she write any?
Annie says no, never.
Or could she write?
Oh, she was a very well-educated young woman.
What about her relations?
As far as we know, she hasn't got any.
What?
No, there isn't a scrap of evidence in her room to tell us who she is.
But this is fantastic. Well, there must be something. A passport, for instance, inoculation certificate, things like that.
No, Alan, nothing. Just her clothes and, a few novels.
Well, I'm damned.
Annie thinks the girl came out from England several years ago, but I don't agree.
Why not, Mum?
Well, she once told us that she landed in Australia only a few weeks before she turned up here.
She was probably married, though.
Married?
We never thought about her being married somehow.
I mean, an unhappy marriage she wanted to forget. That would explain why she wasn't very keen to talk about herself.
Perhaps.
And if her documents were in her married name, well then, that's why she destroyed them.
I dare say you've hit the nail on the head, son. It'd account for all the mystery, wouldn't it?
Alan, I think you're wrong. I'm certain she wasn't married. I don't really know why, but I'm just sure.
Do you remember old Jim Plowden?
The boundary rider? Of course I do, Dad.
After you left last time, I put him in charge of our rabbit pack. We've got about 30 mongrels on hand. Those ruddy rabbits. We're going to start experimenting by laying down superphosphates in the air.
Oh, Mr. Allen.
I wondered if you'd still be up, Annie. Can I come in?
Oh, you're always welcome, Mr. Allen. Now, make yourself comfortable, as you used to do when you were a wee laddie. It's good to have you back home again, Mr. Allen.
I'm back for keeps this time.
Is that the truth?
Yes, Annie.
Oh.
This time it's the truth.
That's fine.
Mind you, I still don't think I've wasted all these years since the war ended. After all, I did take my degree at Oxford, in spite of Hitler. Though I don't suppose being called to the bar and the sort of work I was doing is going to help me much when I come to run Kumbagana.
Perhaps that'll be sooner than you think, Mr. Allen. Your mother cannot manage the stairs alone anymore. And that operation your father had last year, it's shaken him a lot.
Yes. Annie.
Uh-huh. This girl, Jessie Proctor? Yes, Mr. Allen.
You were the person who knew her best.
I did that.
Then tell me what you think about her.
Well, I'd say she was 28 or maybe 30.
Mm-hmm.
I think she came from London. Oh, your mother's going to miss her a great deal.
Mum was fond of her?
Aye, that she was.
What did this girl Jessie do on her days off?
Well, she liked dogs and shooting. She liked that fine. Mostly she'd go out with Jim Plowden in the rabbit pack, either with a gun or a rifle. They say she never missed.
I just can't make this parlour made out at all.
Your father wondered if maybe she could have been a farmer's daughter.
But you don't think so, Annie?
No.
Was she unhappy, do you think?
No, I wouldn't say that. Very quiet she was these last 2 or 3 days, but then she was always quiet.
Sulky, you mean?
No, that she never was. Very even-tempered, easy to get on with. And we got on fine, the 2 of us.
Was she the sort of woman who took a lot of pills and things?
No, that's the odd thing. Aspirin sometimes, very occasionally a tablet from that wee bottle that Dr. Stanley took away.
What kind of sleeping tablets did she use?
I have no idea.
The more you look into it, the fishier the whole business becomes. And there were no letters or papers in her room at all?
Not one single scrap of paper. Maybe she got rid of everything when she decided to make an end to herself.
You don't think it could have been an accident, Annie?
If it was an accident, Mr. Allen, there would surely be letters or papers of some kind, wouldn't there?
Annie, is there really nothing? No ornaments, lockets, or anything like that?
Would you like to have a look inside her room?
Is she up there?
Aye, she's lying there, covered over with a sheet. More peaceful in death than she was in life. There's nothing to be afeard of, Mr. Allen.
I think perhaps I ought to have a look.
We must be careful not to disturb the others.
Yes.
Well, this, Mr. Allen, was Jessie Proctor's home for nearly a year and a half.
What a simple little room.
Aye.
This bottle of ink. It's nearly half full.
Mm-hmm.
Did she have a fountain pen?
Oh, I saw it in her bag. Uh-huh. Here it is.
This pen's been used. Very recently.
She never wrote letters.
Well, look at this ink on the nib.
Aye.
Still damp.
Mm-hmm.
No Bible.
Nope.
No prayer book.
Would you want to take a look at her, Mr. Allen?
No, Annie. Leave her. Cheers. To myself. No. To Jessie Proctor. The whole thing's fantastic. So absurdly deliberate. How could she possibly have been so certain of her death? Because she was certain. Otherwise, she wouldn't have destroyed every single scrap of evidence. I've been drinking too much whiskey tonight. Suppose she didn't burn all her papers. Suppose she packed all the stuff she wanted to get rid of in a box or a suitcase and hid it somewhere. Where at Kumbagana would she be likely to hide a suitcase? Somewhere that was accessible to her, but where nobody would see her when she went to hide it. One of the two rooms used as lumber rooms. Why not? By God, yes. Who's that?
Oh, did that startle you, Mr. Allen?
Oh, startled me. He nearly scared me out of my wits, Annie.
Well, I heard the noise and wondered who it could be.
Come in and shut the door.
Oh, Mr. Allen, I've already looked in here.
Yes? You thought what I did.
So it would seem?
Nothing?
No, not a thing.
Annie, you remember that place in the roof where the possums used to nest when I was a kid?
I can. Well, everything that happened to you when you were a wee lad.
That's where she hid her stuff. I know it.
Then you'll be wanting a ladder. You're no longer as spry as you were when you were a wee lad.
Yes. It had to be there. It just had to be there. My dear, I'm sorry to have to do this to you. Poor, wretched, frightened soul. Papers. Papers and letters neatly tied up in bundles. A dozen quarter manuscript exercise books. A diary. Yes, that's it. Passport must be somewhere. Ah. Good God. It isn't true. It can't be. Janet Prentice. Leading Wren, Janet Prentice. Janet, who belonged to Bill. Don't those damn sergeants ever get tired of chasing Marines all over the place, Bill?
You kidding, Alan?
I'd forgotten you were a ruddy sergeant, too.
Well, brings out the maternal instinct in us, the sight of shivering recruit.
Yeah, I'll bet it does. Why my own brother had to go and join a shah like this? Well, it fair beats me.
It could be worse.
But only just, I know. Hey, do you realize, Bill, it's 2 years since we saw one another?
Oh, I know. And now you're a brass-hat at fighter command ops. Mate, what some people do for a living. You know, you shouldn't be talking to me by rights.
Oh, cut it out, Bill. By the way, what were you doing up at the aerodrome when I flew in?
Well, our flight sergeant up there in charge of photographic reconnaissance, a mate of mine.
So?
Well, with Operation Overlord coming up, nobody's allowed to have a camera down here. Very security-minded, etc.
So?
So, Early's a good type, and he takes your picture for $1. And the good prints, too. Janet and I went up there the other day, and he took one of us. Well, I got it today. Here, to think of it.
Of her, you mean? Let's have a look. Not bad. And just who is Janet?
A leading Wren I know.
Ah, leading Wren I know? Oh, come off it, Bill.
Would you like to meet her?
When?
Well, tomorrow, Sunday.
Okay, you're on. It'll be all right as long as I take off by dawn on Monday.
Well, Janet's got a full day off tomorrow, and she's got a boat laid on, too.
I'll have to nip up to the aerodrome in the morning and ring the office.
Oh, well, you could make the call from here.
Ah, it's got to be a scrambled line.
Oh, that bloody rings and gongs of yours.
Another fact?
Ah, so.
In her last letter, Mum was going on about you getting a commission.
Well, if I'd been an officer, I'd never have met Janet.
Oh, turn it up, Bill. What does she do, anyway?
Ordnance artificer on HMS Masterton. Looks after the guns on the landing craft. Force J, mostly, in the Bewley River.
This Popsy actually services real guns?
Yeah, that's right. If a craft reports defects in its Ehrlichen or its Twin Lewis, then Janet goes on board. If it's crook, she takes it back into the armoury and swaps it for another. I've heard she knows her stuff, that girl.
You engaged to her?
No, Alan. Nothing like that. Not till after the balloon's gone up.
But you'd like to be, eh?
She's a beaut girl, Alan.
How would she go down with Mum and Dad?
I say she'll be all right at Kumbangana.
Bill, what are you going to do when it's all over?
Me? Alan, I like to marry Janet and go back to Kumbangana and stay there just looking at the sheep for a long, long time.
Like that, is it? Well, one of us ought to get back there as soon as possible, you know. Dad says the rabbit's a real murder.
Oh, what about you going back, Alan?
You make an honest woman of this girl, Bill, and go back and help Dad work the place up again. If ever I do come back, well, the place is big enough to split into two. And what's this girl's background, anyway?
Well, that old man's a professor at Oxford, Dr. Prentice.
Oh, the name's familiar.
Yeah, he teaches semantics. Nothing to do with Jews, I understand. It's words or something.
Well, Bill, I'll cast my brotherly eye over this Popsy of yours and see what it gives. Bit 5.
You don't say.
Oh, sorry. How old is she?
21. She joined the Wren straight from school. Well, she seems much older than she is. Why, she goes on with the ratings if they're not up to scratch. They're scared stiff of her on the landing craft.
Sounds as though she's got quite a reputation.
Too right. Anyway, she's probably the only leading Wren in the service who's ever been congratulated personally by the First Sea Lord.
Okay, now pull the other one.
No, I mean it. It happened at Whale Island, HMS Excellent. You know, the naval gunnery training and experimental establishment.
Why the hell do these chair-borne baskets from the Admiralty have to come tooling down here?
What a fresh air, sir, after Whitehall.
Sheer waste of time for busy people like us.
Yes, sir.
As soon as the brass arrived, I had to stop my training shoots. Now I've got 100 ratings and a dozen Wrens hanging about idle. waiting for all this confounded experimental nonsense to finish.
Would you like me to dismiss them, sir?
No, I refuse to pass them out until every single one of them has had a proper shoot. These idiots from the Admiralty seem to think training doesn't matter.
Eyes down, sir.
What?
Director of Naval Gunnery, sir.
Commander.
Sir?
I don't mind telling you, Commander, both the radar chappies and I are a bit worried about this towing aircraft.
Oh, yes, sir?
Oh, the damn thing just streaks across the sky like a bat out of hell. The predictor chappies say, well, not unreasonably, that for efficient fire control they ought to have some idea of the thing's size.
Yes, sir.
And the radar chappies say it gives an uncommonly bad response on the cathode ray screen.
I understand, sir.
But the first Sea Lord
General
says... Sir! What's the delay? What is it that blasted thing shot down? Aye, sir. We'll get on with it then. Millers, Johnson, down through on the quadruple Vickers to begin with.
Aye, sir.
And then we'll use the multiple pom-pom on it.
It's just as impossible.
Well, you see, sir...
The people have been finding that blasted target for now. 10 runs past the grid.
Yes, sir.
And the thing is still flying merrily about the blasted sky, sir.
I'm on the cart, right?
Yeah, what is it, Chief?
I got a wren down there, could hit that thing.
On the Erika?
Yeah, sir, she's a natural.
Could she really hit it?
A piece of cake. Just ask this son of a training class can't have a bash. Leave the rest to me.
Right, Chief. We have 3 training courses waiting on the grid, sir.
Well, Commander?
For their final day of eye shooting, sir.
Eye shooting, eh?
Perhaps we could save time, sir, in getting out another aircraft by letting them try their hands at this.
What does the director of gunnery think? Well, sir, I don't really think you can expect very much from that. I've no objection. Interesting to see the comparison. Well, go ahead, Commander.
Aye, sir. Chief?
There you. Leading the range 20. On the Hurricane, look sharp about it. Yeah. Take it easy now. Try it first about 180 knots.
Right.
And if that don't work, fill it up towards 200 like what you've been taught. Now, wait till I tell you to fire.
You bet, Chief.
Here's the basket now. Remember, don't look at the tracer, just keep looking at the sight. And mind what I told you. Wait for it.
I've got it fair and square between the rings about 4 o'clock.
Steady now. Well, leading Wren Prentice, you did it.
Thanks, Chief.
That'll be an extra coconut.
Thanks, Chief.
Now release yourself from the back strap. That's it. Now I just wonder what some of them chairborne so-and-sos thought about that little lark.
Good afternoon, leading Wren Prentice.
Good afternoon, sir.
You know who I am?
Yes, sir. The first Sea Lord.
That was splendid shooting, young lady. I congratulate you.
Thank you, sir.
Some rather ungallant officer suggested somewhat resentfully that you were probably a senior wrangler in civil life, eh? Taught trigonometry.
I wasn't anything, sir. I mean, I was at school.
School? What about it, eh? Do you know? And you, DGD, eh? Think my blasted girl was 5 bombs worth of sights on a gun? God bless my soul. Haven't enjoyed an afternoon like this in years. Prentice, what were you best at school?
Well, sir, I like Latin best.
Latin. Did you have any difficulty learning eye shooting?
No, sir, I just did what the Chief taught us.
Well, Chief, I congratulate you on this young lady. She is a credit to you.
Now listen to me, you Wrens. I've just been congratulated personally by the first Sea Lord himself on account of what Lady Wren Prentice just done. Now, what Lady Wren Prentice just done, any one of you can do, if you take the trouble. Otherwise, you'd better change your category and go for a cook, right? Stand easy.
Janet, did you really see the first Sea Lord? I saw him all right. What did he say? He asked me what I did before I joined up, and I said I went to school. And then the director of the gunnery division asked me what I was best at when I was at school, and I said Latin. I think they're all crackers, if you ask me, mad as March hares. No wonder they can't hit the bloody aeroplane.
Here's my brother now. Janet, he won't bite you.
Hello there, Bill.
Hello, Alan. Janet, this is my brother, Alan. Alan, this is Janet Prince.
How do you do?
How do you do, sir?
Sir? Hey, steady on.
Bill's got an oilskin for you. I'm afraid this boat's in a bit of a muck.
Oh, don't bother about me.
But you'll get that lovely uniform all dirty. We'll put the oil on anyway.
All right.
It may be a bit wet outside if we go round to Key Haven. Right out. The engine.
Somehow it just doesn't seem possible that all this happened less than 10 years ago. A man who still thinks of himself as a young man, but who is already beginning the long, wretched slog of middle age, sits alone by the fire in the home of his parents, thinking back over a wasted life, I suppose, and dreaming of his brother long dead, and of a girl, now dead too, who came to this house as a servant, but who should have been proudly welcomed as its mistress. Annie, what on earth are you doing out of bed? It's past 2 o'clock.
I couldn't sleep either.
Go back to bed.
Mr. Allen, it's all over and done with. No good can come from thinking about that poor young woman. We can neither harm her nor help her anymore.
I've been sitting by the fire all this time, Annie, thinking about the war and Bill.
Now, we try. Please, Mr. Allen, to get some rest.
I'm back in the past, Annie, and those days won't let me sleep.
No.
Annie?
Yes?
This suitcase on the table.
Mm-hmm. What of it?
One day soon I'll explain it to you.
I can bide my time, Mr. Allen.
Until I do, Annie, I want you to give me a solemn promise that you won't mention the suitcase to any other person.
You have my word.
Believe me, it's better this way, for all concerned. The living and the dead.
Very well, Mr. Allen.
Do you think it would be in order if I were to call you Janet?
Yes, but I don't think I could bring myself to call you Alan.
Why ever not?
Well, not with all those rings, and those splendid gongs, and all that fruit salad.
Well, as long as you don't start calling me sir.
I'll try not to do that. Bill's an awful long time, you know. He should have liberated that beer by now.
Oh, he's sinking a few pints in the pub while he's at it.
I suppose he is the wretch. Bill told me you were at Oxford before the war.
I was at the house.
Really? What were you reading?
Law.
My father's a don at Oxford.
Yes, I know. Semantics.
Then you've heard Bill's ghastly joke.
Janet, forgive me for asking this, but you do like Bill a lot, don't you?
Yes, a lot. Bill said you were in the Battle of Britain.
Yes. I suppose I'll be able to tell my grandchildren that, if any. I did 2 operational tours on fighters. After the second one, they buzzed me up to fight a command. Running out of Spitfires or something.
Did you like it there?
I want to be operational again. When they bash in with the invasion, I'll put in for an operational posting.
Will you miss it?
Miss what?
Oh, gentlemen in England, now bad. You know, miss being there at the very beginning.
I suppose I will.
Bill's mixed up in something awfully funny.
Royal Marine frogmen are apt to get mixed up in some strange capers at this time.
I think he and his friend Bert Finch go across at night to the far shore. And mess about on the French beaches, getting samples of sand or something like that.
It doesn't sound an occupation with a great future in it.
No, it doesn't, does it?
How's your father coping at Oxford in these blood-curdling times?
Oh, Father isn't there anymore. He's gate-crashed the party.
You're not trying to tell me that when Eisenhower blows his little whistle, your father...
Father goes too.
But how old is he?
63.
He must be mad.
He's going as an aircraft identifier on a merchant ship. You see, he was in the observer corps, and they asked for volunteers.
Well, he must be a fantastic character. 63.
He seems to imagine age doesn't matter.
Hi there.
Ah, here's Bill.
Yeah, and about time, too.
Sloshed to the gills, I shouldn't wonder.
Grogged up, sport. You'll have to learn the language.
Well, children, success. Boy, I had a crook Tom half-inch in the grog, I can tell you. My word.
Getting the grog in you mean?
Oh, the ruddy pup stiff with blokes. All screaming blue murder for their grog. And all bigger than me.
Morning, Janet.
Morning, sir.
Got anything for my landing craft?
1 Sten gun, sir, and a box of ammo. Oh, will you sign for the stuff?
Okay, have a little help.
We should be getting a lot more in a few days, sir. I'll do what I can.
Thanks, Janet. Well, I'll be... Enemy aircraft approaching. Anti-aircraft station.
That's a German, sir. Hadn't somebody better man the Ehrlichen?
Dead lost. Both my gunners are on leave.
Oh, my God.
Tell you what, Janet, you take the port gun and I'll cope with the starboard.
Aye, sir.
Jameson, open the lockers and pass out the drums.
Aye, sir.
The rest of you, what the hell are you standing there for? Don't you know the drill? Wear your ruddy tin hats.
Everything shipshape your side, sir.
Okay, here. I'm afraid we lost the so-and-so.
What is it, anyway?
Yonkers 188.
What do you suppose he's doing round here?
Photographing everything and get his beady Teutonic eyes on. He's got a perishing nerve, I must say. Oh, damn, I'll be blanketed off by Monkey's Island in a minute, Janet, so he's all yours.
Aye, sir.
Will you just know? He's burning! He's burning like a haystack.
Oh, God.
Damn good show, Janet. No, I'll bet you're the only red in the service who's ever done that.
That's bloody right, sir.
Did I really do it? Wasn't anybody else firing?
One or two duck boaters fired further upriver, but you did it, my child, with your little bow and arrow. I was unsighted. You got 3 hits right in the cockpit. Marvellous shooting.
I shared it 4 times, sir. I never saw the like of that before.
Anyway, now, you've cooked his German goose, good and proper. I'm going to tool across and have a look. Coming.
Get a move on there, chaps. Drag the bodies over here, and then we can lay them out on this parachute silk.
What do we have a deco?
What? Did you mark?
It's rain here. Stop the thing down.
Oh, you'd have the sense to do it someone else.
How many bobs in it?
7.
7. The JU-188 only has a crew of 4.
Well, they must have been sitting on each other's knees.
That's the last time they'll sit on anybody's knee, isn't it? I must say, they all look rather pallid now.
You're leading Wren Prentice, are you?
Yes, sir.
Well, this is Flight Lieutenant Rigby of the Royal Air Force.
Yes, sir.
I understand that you shot down an enemy aircraft earlier today.
Well, I shot at it, sir, and hit it. But I think other guns further along the river fired at it, too.
I see.
I'm not sure if I was the person who actually shot it down.
Well, from the evidence, I'd say there isn't any doubt that you did the shooting down. But leading Wren Prentice, it so happens that you don't belong to an operational unit. So why did you fire the damn thing at all, eh?
Well, sir, there weren't any gunners on LCT 702, and the sub-lieutenant wasn't doing much about it, really.
Is that so?
The thing was an enemy aircraft, and it seemed obvious the guns ought to be manned. Well, sir, I think I asked Lieutenant Craig it, but I'm not really sure. It all happened terribly quickly.
These things always do. Now stand easy, Prentice.
Thank you, sir.
Please sit down.
Thank you.
Now, the commanding officer of 702 informs me you were acting under his orders. Of course, he had no business to give you any orders at all. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
You're not operational, and you're not under his command.
I realize that now, sir.
It's a pity you didn't realize before. Now, Rigby here's intelligence. He tells me that about the time you opened up with your Ehrlichen, this Jerry aircraft put its wheels down. Did you notice that?
I know the wheels came down while I was shooting, but I think somehow I hit the aircraft at least once before the wheels actually came down. So, again, I'm not sure.
You went on firing after the wheels came down?
Yes, sir, I think I did.
Haven't you any idea what it means when an enemy aircraft lowers its wheels in the air?
I seem to remember it means something about wanting to surrender.
That's exactly what it does mean.
I'm afraid I got carried away in the excitement of the moment, sir.
I've got to establish whether that Junkers wanted to surrender or not. And we also want to know, without any shadow of doubt, whether, in fact, you were the person who shot it down. You see, Prentice, the trouble is that we now think that aircraft was trying to find an aerodrome and surrender peacefully.
How could that be, sir?
Rigby?
Oh, there were 7 men in an aircraft designed to carry a crew of 4. And their pay books show they were all Czechs or Poles.
God.
They were all NCOs, and it's quite on the cards they'd stolen the aircraft and were trying to fly it to Britain to surrender, with the object of volunteering information about the invasion defences.
If so, they picked the hottest spot of the south coast to do their stuff.
Yes, well, they couldn't possibly have been briefed for a flight like this.
No.
Anyway, sir, all I wanted from my report was the fact that this Wren began firing before the wheels came down.
Yes.
No need to lose any sleep over the aircraft. It's a write-off, but we know the type well. I think it probably was trying to land, but who's to say?
Well, I'm not going to take any disciplinary action, Prentice. I don't blame you for doing what you did. After all, we are at war. But remember in future, you have absolutely no right whatsoever to fire any gun of any kind at the enemy. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
You may go now.
Letters by the dozen. Letters from her mother, her father, from Bill, and from his comrade in arms, Albert Finch. Number 4, LCOCU, care of GPO, made at 6, 1944. Dear Miss Prentice, I don't know if you will remember me,
but I was with Bill Duncan the day you first met him. I'm very sorry to say I've got some bad news for you. Bill and I had a sort of operation at a place abroad, and I'm afraid Bill copped it. This is all I'm allowed to write at the moment. If I see you after this caper is over, I will be able to tell you more about what happened. I know poor old Bill would have wanted one of his mates to tell you about him. I am so sorry. We don't know what to do with his dog Deb that he called after De Valera. Remember? The captain says to shoot it. But I wondered if perhaps you would like the dog. If so, and you can let me know, I will bring him over to Mastodon myself. I'm sorry to have to write you a letter like this. With best respects, Miss Prentice, yours sincerely, Albert Finch, Sergeant, Royal Marines. Ellen, I want to marry Janet, go back to Kumbagana, and just sit and look at the sheep for a long, long time.
Dozen school exercise books. Page after page of firm, clear writing. All a life in these pages. Poor little wretch. 1944. April, May. Here it is, May the 6th. Father gave me a letter today.
It was from Bert Finch, Bill's friend. Bill is dead. Gave Vala the letter to read. She says she's worried because I haven't been weeping and carrying on since the letter came. But what's the use? Bill's dead and I shall never see him again. I simply have got to do something about Bill's dog. Bill would never forgive me if I failed to do that.
Like another gin, Catherine?
No, thanks. Jeff, I've just been having a talk with your ordnance friend.
Janet Prentice?
Yes. Her boyfriend's been killed.
What happened?
They won't tell her. He was in one of those combined ops special units, you know.
Oh, what awful luck.
She wants to take his dog over and have it here. But the captain won't have dogs around the place.
Oh, really? I've never heard such nonsense.
The captain wouldn't hear of it when Second Officer Foster wanted to have her dog here.
Well, he's not going to hear of it now. There are ways and means of sorting things like this out. The captain's got enough to worry about anyway. I sent for you, Prentice, because Third Officer Collins happened to talk to me about you.
Did she, sir?
She tells me you want to keep a dog here.
The captain won't allow it, sir.
I've been having an unofficial natter with McAllister, the gardener.
The gardener?
Yes, and he suddenly discovered that he needs a dog to guard his greenhouses. Tells me the ratings are nipping out at night and liberating lettuces, tomatoes, and what have you in the salad line. I've had a couple of ratings and knock a kennel together.
Sir, I just don't know what to say.
It's nothing whatever to do with the captain or even their lordships if the gardener decides to import a dog to guard his lettuces.
Thank you. Thank you.
Don't cry, Janet. Keep your chin up. Now, come along to McAllister's cottage and have a word with him. And let Mac bring the animal in, not you. You understand, Janet?
Yes, sir.
Now, look, I'm awfully sorry, Janet, and
I can't help crying. I'll be all right in a moment.
I'll go and see Mac anyway. And remember, he's going to swear black and blue the dog's his.
Oh, Viola, isn't it a wonderful sight? Have you ever seen anything like it? All those ships and stuff.
This is it, isn't it?
Oh, everybody seems to think so. I don't know. Suddenly it's different somehow. Look at the stuff they're taking with them.
And the messages. Look out, Adolf. Here we come. Berlin or bust. Yes, Janet. This is it, all right.
All these ships. We're looking at a fleet of shipping bigger than anything anyone's ever seen before. I wish one could do more. Don't worry about that. There'll be bags to do when this lot starts coming back for a second load. Oh, Deb! Deb, come here! Here, give me a hand with this Ehrlichen ammo, huh?
Okay.
What was it like?
Oh, bloody terrible. The jails have got landmines, old shells, anything that will go off with a bank tied up on them ruddy beach obstacles. 3 craft of our lot copped it and sank in 2 feet of water on the beach. God, what a shambles. You've never seen anything like it, miss. Reckon Jerry's a mile or so inland by now.
What about Jerry Aircraft?
Oh, 1 or 2 of them come over, strafing our lads on the beach. Everybody had a bash at them. Brought a couple of the baskets down.
Leading Red Princess? Here, ma'am, in 709.
Oh, Princess, I'd like a word with you.
Right, ma'am.
In private.
Shan't be a tick, ma'am. Here, ma'am.
Janet, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. It's about your father.
He's been killed, hasn't he?
You've been told?
No. No, nobody told me. Thank you for coming all the way down to the Hard to tell me, ma'am. It's very kind of you. He's certainly a just God, isn't he?
God?
Very just. I killed 7 men who weren't Germans. Wretched Czechs and Poles who were trying to come over to our side.
Now, Janet, don't let's go into all that again.
As though that weren't enough, he decided to take Daddy too.
I've arranged for you to go on 48-hour leave immediately.
I don't want to go on leave, ma'am.
I think you ought to go and see your mother.
I can't. Not until this flap's over.
All right, Prentice? Anyway, you'd better phone your mother at once. That's the very least you can do in the circumstances.
Very good, ma'am.
I'll go back to the Rennery and see if I can get a GPO line for you.
Dog got run over by a Sherman tanker.
What the hell's the dog doing here anyway?
Shoot him. Please shoot him for me, sir.
Who does it belong to?
He's mine. Please, shoot him. Quickly.
Just beg out the hard and try not to listen.
Thanks.
Janet. There's no future in sitting here.
Oh, Father, I can't just bloody well stop howling.
Look, sweetie, I'm going to take you back to the Rennery.
No, I can't leave.
Oh, nonsense.
Miss Spikins can't cope with all these ships alone.
Of course she can.
No, even so, I can't leave her. I shouldn't.
But there's no more loading here tonight. Here, take my hanky, Janet. I'll go and make my number with the hard master and tell him.
If only the girl had written to me. If only she'd given somebody an address. Surely she could have told me what was happening. Surely she could have done that for Bill's own brother. Disappearing like a ghost. And me searching. Searching hopelessly for a girl my dead brother was once going to marry. Searching for her all those years after his death.
What I can't understand is how you got onto me, Mr. Duncan.
Look, Miss Dawson, couldn't we be a bit less formal?
All right. My name's Viola.
Mine's Alan.
Yes, I know.
It's a long story, Viola.
You've got plenty of time, if I know anything about the service here.
I never met Janet, you know, after that day I told you about, when she managed to liberate a boat and she and my brother Bill and I went for a sail to Keyhaven.
She told me about it, Alan.
Well, I wrote to her at Masterton some 4 years ago. It was a couple of months after the invasion. About August.
She'd left by then.
Just what did happen?
Your brother Bill had a dog.
Oh, yes. I always wondered what happened to Deb.
When Bill didn't come back from that thing at the garage, Janet took Deb over.
I see.
Just after D-Day, the dog was run over by a tank.
By God, that girl really had a fill of D-Day, didn't she?
She told me afterwards that she'd taken one last look at your brother's dog, whispered goodbye, and then walked away. She heard the dog screaming, and then 2 shots. She said to me, Viola, with those shots, my service in the Wrens has come to an end.
I know what she meant.
Funny, wasn't it? She stood up marvelously for your brother's death, and then her father's a few weeks afterwards, but when Dev bought it, that finished everything for her.
What happened after that?
She was sent on sick leave.
Now, what was she like when she came back?
She never came back, Alan.
Oh?
She went up to a medical ward in London after a month or two of being messed about. They gave her a discharge. Compassionate grounds.
She had the grounds, all right.
The truth is, I suppose, that she just wasn't any use to the Navy anymore.
They'd certainly had their whack.
Indeed. She was the most marvelous person I ever served with.
Well, I've spent the best part of the last 4 years looking for her. You won't believe what I've been through. Her mother's dead now.
Yes, I know.
Well, finally I traced May Spikins and 1 or 2 of the other Wrens.
I wondered how you ran me to earth. Well, I'm terribly sorry, Alan. I simply can't help you. I wish to heaven I could.
Damn.
In the autumn of 44, I heard somewhere that Janet had gone into a home near Henley. One of those places for people who've had nervous breakdowns.
I know the place.
I simply couldn't go and see her at the time, but when I did manage to, she'd already left. I talked to the matron about her. The old girl remembered Janet well. As a listless sort of girl, rather inclined to be suicidal, she said. And obsessed by the feeling of guilt for something she thought she'd done in the war.
Yeah, that damn Junkers again.
What happened to you, Alan?
Oh, nothing very spectacular. I bought it right at the end. New Year's Day, 1945.
Yeah, I remember. That fantastic morning when the Luftwaffe fighters had one last bash.
Yeah, some bash, too. I was after a Fokker Wolf 190, and I suddenly smelled burning rubber, and I realized I was on fire, which was a charming thought. Suddenly, too, I felt a frightful pain in both my feet. Well, somehow I managed to bail out of the typhoon I was tied up in, and then I blacked, which was just as well. The first thing I knew after that, I was sitting in the snow with some chaps of the RAF regiment practicing tourniquets on the legs.
What awful luck. Going for a Burton when the whole thing was practically over.
I was luckier than Bill. The RAF vets did their damnedest, but they weren't able to save my feet. So they chopped them off.
Your mother's had her share too, hasn't she, Alan?
I suppose you could put it like that.
You went back to Australia?
Yes. In 45, I felt, well, a bit disenchanted with England, so I buzzed off to our spread at Kumbagana. Well, a cripple's not much use on an Australian sheep station running over 30,000 merinos.
You came back?
Oxford again. No strain for a cripple there, you know.
Please, don't go on about it, Alan.
Well, I kept on writing to Janet, care of any address, any friend I could think of. The letters always came back marked, gone away, address unknown.
Disappeared, just like that, huh?
The original girl in the Chinese cabinet. Then this year I got a letter from her uncle in the United States.
Oh?
And he put me in touch with a charwoman who'd once worked for Mrs. Prentice. When I ran her to earth up in Yorkshire, she was able to give me a little gin, but it was only that Janet had had a nervous breakdown after the war. Well, I don't quite know how to put it, but, well, the picture of that clear-eyed, competent Wren was still terribly vivid in my mind. She'd been Bill's girl, and she was in trouble. It seemed to me that the Duncan family owed her something. So I reopened the question of Oxford with my father, and here I am.
What's the next move?
God only knows. I still want to find her. I mean, well, if things had been different, that girl would be living at Kumbagana today.
I think you've fallen in love with Janet Prentice.
Oh, nonsense.
You have, Alan.
With my brother's girl.
Why not? He's dead, isn't he? It isn't incest. Or something listed as untouchable in the Book of Common Prayer.
I just want to find her and see that she's all right.
Oh, well. Anyway, you know where I live in Earl's Court, if ever you want to look me up. And I'd like to know where Janet's gone and hidden herself, too.
You idiots has got the bottle opener.
Johnny had it last.
Oh, Johnny, for heaven's sake.
Yes, Jim's new 1954 Cooper.
But this is still 1953.
Oh, take the child away and explain the facts of life to her, Summer.
Well, it's silly, isn't it? I mean, you can't have next year's car this year.
This is Goodwood, sweetie, not Mayfair.
Come and get it.
Oh, it smells good.
Hey, with a dark primer stone for the galley, it's a miracle I managed anything hot at all.
You said galley.
Well, Alan?
And what did you do in the Great War, Grandma?
Grandma yourself. I was in the Royal Navy.
Ah, I thought I detected a faint female matelot tang about you. Wrens, I take it.
What else? Another banger?
Ta. What category were you in?
Boat's crew, of course. First to Brightlingsea, then Pompey and HMS Hornet.
When were you at Portsmouth?
44 and 45.
I don't suppose you ever ran up against a Wren I used to know in those days. A leading Wren Prentice. She was an ordnance artificer, I think, at HMS Masterton.
Oh, not the famous Wren who shot down that Jerry aircraft.
Yes, I believe she did do something like that.
Oh, Janet Prentice.
She was engaged to my brother before he bought it.
Well, I knew her, all right. Well, there couldn't have been two leading Wrens called Prentice of Bewley at the same time.
Oh, she just dropped out altogether. Completely disappeared.
Oh, a girl I know called Viola Dawson would be the best person to help you.
Oh, I've already seen Viola.
Oh, recently?
No, we met a few years ago.
Well, I'd try it again then.
Oh, why?
Well, I bumped into her last month.
Yes?
She happened to mention Janet Prentice, said she'd heard from her or about her or something like that.
Cynthia, you've made my day.
Well, I hope something comes of it. Now, for heaven's sake, let's have some food. All this nostalgic war nattering makes me feel slightly queasy. Don't know why. Career, perhaps.
I simply didn't know where to get in touch with you, Alan.
No, I suppose not.
Well, now you are here, you'd better help yourself to a drink. I'll go and wash this paint off my hands.
Ah, I didn't realize you were an artist.
Oh, my job's really set designing movies, mostly. This sort of thing I do for fun.
Can't say I know much about art.
Yeah, that makes two of us. By the way, Alan, since I saw you last, I've done one of Janet.
Have you got it here?
Where do you think it was? The National Gallery. Grab a drink while I get it.
Thanks. What about you?
Cooking, Sherry. Don't expect too much. There you are, matey.
Thanks.
Leading Wren Prentice in the unlawful process of firing an Ehrlichen at a Ju-188. Pre-D-Day, during the Second War to end all war. Amen.
By God, Viola, you really caught her.
Think so?
Yes. Oh, yes. The broad shoulders and the The dark hair. That kindly, broad, rather square face of hers. Those dark, thick eyebrows.
Her eyes were always so calm and cool. I never thought anything would ever shake her.
I know, but it did.
I've got some news for you.
Where is she?
May Spikins, another wren who's down at Booling.
Where is she?
All right, Alan, give me a chance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
May and I are meeting next week. I'll pass the Jen on to you, if you don't go off again.
I promise.
She thought an awful lot of you.
Janet did?
Oh, yes. She was scared stiff about meeting you that famous Sunday. Thought she wouldn't pass inspection.
She passed.
So I gather. And you passed, too, it seems.
Oh?
Well, when she came back that night, she said, in spite of all his gongs and rings and being one of the few, he's absolutely terrific.
She said that?
She was absolutely bubbling over. She said you were the sort of person who seemed to have been everywhere and done everything, but you weren't at all big-headed about it. But you were terribly quiet. She didn't make friends very easily, you know.
Viola, could I possibly have that painting you've done of Janet?
What do you want it for?
Well, it's very like her. After all, she was my brother's girl. We ought to have a picture of her. If you can spare it.
I said you were in love with her, didn't I?
Nonsense.
It's absolutely crazy. You only met her for a few hours, 8 or 9 years ago.
I'm only trying to find the wretched girl.
And when you found her, what then? Do you honestly think she's the same person she was 9 years ago? Or that you're the same person you were in the war? Oh, for God's sake, Alan, try and be your age. Stop behaving like a soppy teenager.
I suppose after that it's about time I made myself scarce.
You can have the picture.
I'm sorry if I've said anything to hurt you.
Take the blasted thing. How could you hurt me?
Well, I'm most grateful.
Well, when I've seen May, I'll let you know what she's got up her sleeve.
Thanks, Viola.
After that, I don't think I want to see you anymore.
If you say so. And let me have a bottle of Australian wine, please, waiter.
Australian wine, sir?
Yes. We convict cobbers down under do make wine, you know, sport. A Burgundy, if you've got it.
I'll see if we stock such a wine, sir.
Yes, you go and do that pronto. Pompous idiot. Viola. Oh, it is good to see you again.
Janet's in Seattle.
Seattle? The United States?
That's the place.
Well, what on earth's she doing there?
Well, May Spikins only said Janet went to America to stay with an aunt. Anyway, I've got her address.
I really am very grateful, Viola.
Are you, Alan? 8312 37th Avenue, Seattle, Washington, USA, and the rest of the gubbins. Sealed with a loving kiss.
Janet writes to May Spikins, does she?
Not anymore, apparently. But she started just after the Korean War broke out. And wrote pretty regularly for a time.
Well, what's the Korean War got to do with it?
Well, May Spikins is a second officer Wren's at the Admiralty now.
Well, you don't really mean that Janet's trying to get back into the Wrens?
She was. You'll write to her straight away, I suppose.
Yes. Oh, yes, I'll do that, of course. There won't be time for me to get an answer before I go.
I didn't know you were leaving England.
Oh, didn't I tell you, Viola? Yes, I'm booked to fly to Australia in a few days' time.
No, Alan, you didn't tell me. That was something that must have slipped your mind for some reason.
I think I'll cancel my present reservation and go back via the States.
That'll be just dandy for you, won't it?
I'll be in Seattle early next week. Almost as soon as my letter gets there.
Yes.
Oh, look, Viola, I really am terribly grateful for all you've done.
Janet and I were very good friends during the war. She's taken a good many bad knocks, and I'd like to see her happy.
I don't suppose she'll really be happy until she gets back into the Wrens.
No. I'm afraid she won't do that now. When will you be coming back to England?
I shouldn't think for some years.
Perhaps it's just as well, Alan, for both of us. You going to ask her to marry you?
Well, we'll both have changed. You said that yourself.
You'll marry her, all right. And you'll both be deliriously happy, and I'll send you a wedding present I can't really afford, and be godmother to one of your kids.
Oh, please, Viola.
I don't want any food, Alan, not now.
I'm sorry things have turned out this way.
Oh, it would never have worked anyway. I realize that now. Janet will always be between us. A memory, anyway, even if you never saw her again. Well, my dear, we're not children. So let's part as friends,
Goodbye, Viola. And thank you again.
Bye, Alan.
Yes?
My name's Alan Duncan.
Yes?
And I'm looking for a friend of mine, a Miss Janet Prentice. I think she's expecting me. I wrote her airmail from England last week.
Say, you're English, aren't you?
Well, British. Australian, really.
Your letter's still here, Mr. Duncan.
You mean she hasn't got it yet?
Your friend left here about 18 months ago, right after the old lady died. We bought the house from them, Sam and me.
Oh, no, this is too much. Did she leave a forwarding address?
My, you are English, aren't you? Address. No, I'm sorry to say she didn't. I was going to give your letter back to the mailman this noon.
No, I'm afraid I'm not able to help you at all, Mr. Duncan.
It was just a wild shot.
As the British Vice Consul here in Seattle, I knew of your friend's existence, naturally. But you didn't choose to take me into her confidence.
No, she wouldn't.
As far as I'm aware, your friend returned to England some considerable time ago. Well, to the best of my knowledge and belief, that is.
Can I help you, sir?
I'd like to make a reservation on your next flight to Sydney, miss.
Sydney, Australia.
Well, I didn't know there were any others.
Sydney, Australia. Oh, tomorrow noonday.
Fine.
Flight PA 763. Oh, you must be at the terminal building 1 hour before noonday. Your name, sir?
Alan Duncan.
Mr. Alan Duncan.
I'm staying at the Conroy.
Well, we'll call you if there are any changes in your flight arrangements, Mr. Duncan.
Thanks.
Have you been in our city long, Mr. Duncan?
Approximately 6 hours.
6 hours? Oh, I'm afraid you need longer than that to see our city, Mr. Duncan.
Yes, I dare say, but then I didn't really come to see Seattle. Although I'm sure it's a splendid city.
Oh, it is.
I came here to look for somebody. Somebody I've been searching for since the end of the war.
Oh, for nearly 9 years? Well, then it must be a girl, I guess.
Yes.
And you found her?
No. No, I haven't.
Well, I thought maybe you found her and you both discovered you'd changed a lot after all those years.
Oh, we've changed all right. I'm certain of that. Wherever she is. And if she's alive.
Well, you don't really suppose she's dead?
I just don't know. I don't know if she's alive or dead, where she is or even what she is anymore.
You're going to Australia to look for her?
I'm giving up the search.
Oh, don't do that. Oh, sorry, sir. I shouldn't have said that.
Well, what else can I do? No, I'm going back home to be a sheep farmer. And believe me, I won't worry about her any longer.
For the life of me, Mr. Allen, I can't understand you. You sit up half the night looking through poor Jessie Proctor's things and staring into the fire. And when I come in to see what's going on, you're angry with me.
I'm sorry, Annie.
You order me off to bed, and when I do go, and I happen to fall asleep, which I didn't think was possible the night, you come creeping into my room and tell me to get up. Oh, I don't know whether I'm on my head or my heels.
Annie, I want you to come with me into Jessie's room.
Why, Mr. Allen?
You see all these exercise books?
Huh?
These books are her diary.
Oh, does it say why she chose to make an end of herself?
I don't know. That's why I came to you.
But I've told you everything I could about her.
You can help, Annie. Just now I read one extract from her diary, and I felt just as though I'd done something to desecrate a church.
Would it not be better if we just put her things away again where she hid them and forgot that you'd ever found them?
No, we can't do that. You'll understand why in a minute. I want to read a diary, Annie. I've got to. And I want you to be with me when I do it.
I understand.
But I want to read it in the room where she is. We'll go there now, and you'll understand why these diaries are so very important to all of us.
Mr. Allen, would it not be better if I were to light a fire? If we're going to be here a wee while?
Yes, do that, please. Annie, earlier tonight, when we were in this room, you asked me if you should pull the sheet back so that I could look at that dead woman there.
You did not so wish?
I haven't been back in this room until now, and yet I know who that dead girl there is.
What do you mean, Mr. Allen?
Annie, did you know she was Bill's girl?
I didn't know it for certain, but I thought perhaps it might be something of the sort.
Well, that's the girl Bill would have married if he hadn't been killed. Her name wasn't Jessie Proctor at all.
No.
It was Janet Prentice.
There is more strife in this world, in a person's heart, than we can imagine.
I knew that girl, Annie. I met her with Bill a few weeks before the invasion. Then she left the service. She was a wren in the Women's Royal Naval Service.
I thought she was a lassie who had been something in the war.
Well, she completely disappeared. And on and off, I've been searching for her for most of the years since the war ended.
Mm-hmm. And if things had been different, Mr. Allen, she would have come here to Kumbagana.
Indeed she would, Annie. Eventually to be its mistress. And she did come here. But she came without Bill. She came alone. God knows why, using a false name and looking for work as a parlour maid.
Why should she want to come here at all?
I think these diaries will tell us that. Perhaps she came here to be near the mother of the boy she was going to marry, to see his home, and to know more about that boy than she'd learned during their brief love affair. Why, when she'd done that, she should suddenly decide to take a life. That's something to do with me, Annie. I'm sure of it.
With you?
Oh, I come into it all right. But how? That's what I'm not sure of yet. So we must find out. Here and now. We're going to learn what it was that drove this girl, nearly 9 years after I saw her, to destroy herself.
April the 16th, 1944. Tomorrow, Brother Allen. I wish Bill and I could go on as we are, sergeant and leading Wren. But of course we've got to meet each other's relations. Bill thinks such a lot of Alan that I'm really rather windy. Bill was quite right, of course. Brother Allen really is something rather terrific. 3 rings, wings, 5 medal ribbons, including the DFC and bar. I'm not a bit windy now about meeting Bill's people. They can't be so different to us as I thought. May the 7th, 1944. I'm glad now I never told Mother and Father about Bill. I couldn't stand anybody being sympathetic. Bill never told any of his people about us, only his brother. I wrote Bert Finch and asked him to go through Bill's gear and look for any letters or photographs of us together and send them back to me. Bert's a good sort, and somehow I think Bill would have wanted it like this. September the 16th, 1946. They don't want me back in the Wrens. Now that Mother's dead, it seems the only person who wants me in the world is Aunt Ellen. I don't suppose I'll like America, but it's time I got out of the groove I'm in here in England. May the 28th, 1951. The Admiralty still don't want me in spite of Korea. I'm glad in a way it's over for me, all this hoping.
I suppose I'll eventually have to leave Seattle, now Aunt Ellen's dead, and go back to England. But I don't really know what to do. If I go on, I'll have to start a new life. But I'm too tired to face up to that. It would be terribly easy to give up, because I've got enough of Aunt Ellen's stuff to kill a horse. I would make the seventh person, too. The seventh sacrifice, I suppose one could call it. All the people I've loved have died. Bill, and I loved him most of all. Father, Mother, Deb, Aunt Ellen, and her Jimmy. I'd make the seventh, and then all the men in that Junkers would at last be paid for. Perhaps I'll make one last effort and go and see Dr. Ruttenberg again. He may be able to help.
Medically speaking, Miss Prentice, your case is not a complicated one.
And I've nothing to worry about.
I didn't say that, Miss Prentice. As you no doubt know, your problems are psychological.
Horrible word.
Now, you've spoken to me very frankly. I can understand that the circumstances under which you lived in 1944 were good and valid reasons for your not wanting strangers to know about your love affair with Bill Duncan. But the circumstances of 1951 are very different.
Are they?
Look, Miss Prentice, if Bill Duncan had lived, you would have become part of his family. You would have owed certain duties, certain allegiances to your new relations by marriage.
It didn't work out that way.
I don't really feel that you have thought about them enough.
No, Doctor. Perhaps you're right there. I always was selfish, I suppose.
Well, your aunt's recent death has given you a certain measure of independence. You would benefit from a long sea voyage, you know.
You mean I ought to go out to Australia?
Yeah, why don't you do that, Miss Prentice? Why don't you visit Australia, seek out the Duncan family, and satisfy yourself that all is well with them, that they're not in any need of help from you?
It's something I'd never really thought about.
From what you told me, these people were farmers. The old folks must be slowing down a lot by now. They may be in some sort of distress.
June the 2nd, 1951. Dr. Ruttenberg has given me an awful lot to think about. He's probably right, as usual. I'll have to go out to Australia and snoop around, probably under a made-up name, like a spy. If Bill's people are all right, I can just retire quietly and come back. Anyway, it'll mean a month on a ship, Honolulu, Fiji, New Zealand, Sydney. It would be a marvelous trip. August the 30th, 1951. Well, here I am at long last. Not actually at Kumbagana yet, but at Forfa, the nearest town. I must say, I really have been a clomp. I've come all this way for nothing. Kumbagana isn't a village, it's an estate. Well, apparently it's a marvelous place. A really enormous sheep station in the Western District. 14,000 acres, a big house the size of the Admiralty, and heaven alone knows how many sheep. I've been such a fool. But then I often am these days. I ought to have known there was nothing I could do for Bill's mother and father. Went into the post office hotel in Forfa and asked the proprietor, a Mr. Collins, if I could have a job for a week or two. Gave my name as Jessie Proctor again. Said I was working my way around Australia and going on to Adelaide.
If you like working with us, Jessie.
Very much, Mr. Collins.
You don't find it too tough. Sweeping up, and helping to carry the barrels of grog in.
Good Lord, no. All English girls aren't made of sugar and spice, you know.
I just wondered. Oh, hello there, Colonel.
Hello, Dick.
Oh, Colonel, I'd like to introduce a new member of my staff, a girl out from home, Miss Jessie Proctor, Colonel Duncan, Jessie.
Pleased to meet you, Miss Proctor. Hope you like it out here in Australia.
How do you do, Colonel Duncan? Yes, I like it very much indeed.
Good on you. As you'll find we say here.
Yes.
Dick, has Harry Chalmers been in?
Not yet.
If you see him, tell him I want a word with him, will you?
Right.
See you again, I hope, Miss Proctor.
Yes, I hope so, too.
He's a grand chap, the Colonel.
Yes.
Had a rough time, though.
Oh?
Oh, very rough. My word. Had 2 sons. One was killed just before D-Day. Bill. Oh? You lose somebody in the war, too?
Yes.
Nice lad he was, too. Clean, upright. Made a great sheep farmer. The other son, Alan, he's back in England at the moment. He had a rough time, too. He was in the Royal Air Force. Crashed. Had to have both his feet amputated, poor devil.
I didn't. What dreadful luck.
Too right.
Shouldn't the son who's still alive, Alan, you said his name was?
Yeah.
Well, shouldn't he be here to take the station over? I mean, the Colonel's getting on.
Alan Duncan's a lawyer. Never was a man for the station, really. May come back sometime and take over when the old man goes. The Colonel's in a bit of a state at the moment, too.
Why, Mr. Collins?
Oh, just fired the married couple who work for them.
Oh.
Good riddance, too, ruddy foreigners. Anyway, the Colonel's looking around for someone to work the house. There's an old Scotswoman there, but she's been there since the boys were babies. I don't suppose she's much help anymore.
September the 4th, 1951. I've taken a job at Kumbagana. I did it on the spur of the moment. I rather wish I hadn't now. It's only for a week or 2 until they get another married couple. September the 8th. I must have been crackers to come here. Mrs. Duncan is so terribly, terribly like Bill, it's almost unbearable. I think I'm going to understand more about Bill than I ever did. This is where he grew up. This house and this lovely view made Bill what he was. No wonder he was different to all the other Pongos and couldn't help being different, living in a breathtaking place like this. Even so, I still think I was crazy to come here. In the end, I shall only suffer more, I suppose.
We put the ferrets in, you see, Jessie.
Uh-huh.
They'll chase the bleeding rabbits out, then we'll shoot them as they scatter.
I say, Jim, could I have a go?
Well, you ever fired a gun?
Good Lord, yes.
Well, I don't suppose there's any harm in it. Here, Jessie, take this one.
Thanks.
Here they come, Jim.
Right. Ready, Jessie?
Ready.
Well, watch it. Don't go blasting Harry or Dick or one of the dogs, or the Colonel really will play hell.
I won't.
Get on with it.
Right, Jessie. Wow, be confounded. Jessie, my word, I never saw a woman shoot like that or reload like that either.
Oh, well.
You've been holding out of it, Jessie Proctor.
4 rabbits in 4 shots. My word.
You horses, you think you're the only people in the world who can ride or shoot. Anytime you want anything shot, Jim, just get a pommy girl fresh out from home and she'll knock it over for you.
Yeah, young Bill would like to have seen that. By gum, that boy, I like an eagle.
Did all the men like him, Jim?
They did that all right. Mr. Allen, too, and he was different. Bill was one of us.
Oh, Jessie.
Ma'am?
Our son's coming home. Alan's written to say he's quite made up his mind his place is here now. Oh, he was so restless after the war, being crippled. But I'm sure he's got it out of his system now. Oh, I do so much want him to find a nice girl and settle down here at Kumbagana.
I hope he will, ma'am. I think, ma'am, that I ought to be leaving here quite soon.
But I thought you were happy with us.
Oh, but I am. I haven't been so happy for a long time.
Well, then, why talk about leaving us?
When I came, it was only for a week or 2.
But that was 18 months ago. You're one of the family now, Jessie. It's almost as though you've become a kind of daughter to us.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Then don't let us have any more talk about you going away.
It's been a great day for them. I'll definitely have to move on somewhere else before Alan gets here. He'd be bound to recognize me. He'll be able to help his parents, and I won't be wanted any longer. It's going to be a dreadful wrench leaving this lovely place.
I might have another crack at getting back into the Wren. He lies attentive. I simply don't know what to do. I would like to see Alan again. He was such a grand person. I hate going away. If only I could meet Alan somewhere before he came here. Yesterday morning I was dusting in the hall, and when I'd finished, I suddenly heard Annie and Mrs. Plowden talking about Alan in the kitchen.
Well, I don't know, Annie. Mr. Allen did take her to the races at Hamilton.
Oh, years ago. It meant nothing. Mind you, you've been needing a wife, our Mr. Allen. And this girl, Sylvia Holmes, will come into her folks' property one day.
As far as I'm concerned, he could do a lot worse than look in his own kitchen.
Shh. The girl's dusting in the hall.
Well, now it's in the open at last. I think I'm glad. I realize now what's been wrong for a long time. This interest in Alan that I felt growing in me. This is what has been keeping me here at Kumbagana. Not the memory of Bill, however hateful it may be to write that down coldly. All this time I've been kidding myself about Alan. What I've really been doing is to hang around until he turns up, so that I can make him fall in love with me. Then I wouldn't have to leave Kumbagana. I think that's what I've been reaching out for, really. And I damn nearly made it. Oh, Bill. Bill. I can't imagine what I've been doing. How I've got myself into such a mess. There's no way out of this one. I can't meet Alan. You can't possibly fall in love with a man you met 9 years ago when you were head over heels in love with his brother. October the 22nd. Alan's plane arrives 3 days from now. I know now I can never be happy anywhere else except at Kumbagana. But it's not possible for me to stay here. I've still got enough of Aunt Ellen's knockout drops, a whole bottle of them. Everything will be over and done with by the time Alan gets home. I'm sorry about the old people. I think they really came to like me. But when Alan's home, everything will soon be forgotten. Old people are like children in a way. Their grief doesn't last very long. October the 23rd. I went for a walk round the garden for the last time. I picked out an enormous red azalea in bloom and took it to Alan's room. I put it in the blue jar on his table. It'll look lovely by Friday. I do hope they keep it watered.
I told you we'd find the reason, Annie.
It would better have been left hidden, Mr. Allen. Far, far better.
No, I don't think so. There was a ghost here at Kumbagana, Annie. It had to be exorcised. That isn't heartless. Believe me.
Perhaps it is, as well. Well, the household will be moving soon.
Yes.
I'll go and make you some tea.
Yes, Annie, that'll be a very good idea. And I know you won't talk about what's happened. It mustn't be known round the station.
Morning, Alan.
Morning, Dad.
You're up very early, son.
As a matter of fact, I didn't go to bed at all.
Too restless on your first night home?
Dad? During the night, I found a suitcase that girl left behind, hidden up in the room. It had all the papers in it.
There's something going on here I don't understand.
I know. I've got a lot I want to tell you before Mother appears.
Right, we'll go into my study.
Before we start on the whole thing, though, and it's a very long story, there's a telephone call I want to put in. Operator? This is Kumbagana. Yes. Will you please get the overseas radio telephone operator in Melbourne and book a call for me? No, Alan Duncan. Yes, I want to book a call to England. It's a London number. Fremantle, 7261. Yes, a personal call. For a Miss Viola Dawson. No, Viola Dawson. Yes, I shall want about a quarter of an hour. Right. I'll be waiting. Thanks. Now, Dad, I'm going back to England. Flying as soon as I can get a reservation.
I see.
But I don't expect to be there more than a week or so. Then I'm coming back to Kumbagana for good.
And all this, for some reason I don't yet understand, is to do with a person called Viola Dawson.
Yes, Dad. Very much to do with her. Now, let's go into the study and I'll tell you why. What I'm going to tell you will take a long time. You won't find it easy to grasp at first. And I think you'll agree with me that it must be kept from Ma. It's, an obituary, I suppose. No, a requiem's a better word.
Requiem?
Yes, Dad. A requiem. A requiem for a girl who was a wren.
That was Anna Massey as Janet Prentice and Trader Faulkner as Alan Duncan in Requiem for a Wren, adapted by Stephen Grenfell from the novel by Nevil Shute. The rest of the cast was as follows. Mrs. Duncan, Brenda Dunrich, Colonel Duncan, Russell Napier, Annie, Molly Rankin, Bill, John Bradley, Viola, Diana Olson, Lieutenant Commander Cartwright, Norman Claridge, Admiral, Kenneth Hyde, First Sea Lord, Peter Pratt, Petty Officer Waters, Michael Goldie, Sub-Lieutenant Craigie, Alan Haynes, Captain Gibson, Frederick Treves, Flight Lieutenant Rigby, Gerard Green, Sergeant Albert Finch, Andrew Sachs, Catherine Collins, Margaret Wolfett, Lieutenant Parks, Gabriel Wolfe, and Clerk, Nicolette Bernard. The play, which was recorded, was produced by Betty Davis.
We present Ronald Howard and Trader Faulkner in Round the Bend, Stephen Grenfell's adaptation of the novel by Nevil Shute. Round the Bend.
Lights out.
How do you know, Tom?
Oh, I don't really. I'm just guessing. It's exactly 10:15, and I don't suppose much happens in the army after this time of night.
Suppose not. Seems silly, doesn't it? Having a bugler telling the soldiers to put all the lights out in the middle of a war. I mean, when all those ships are so blacked out, you can only guess where they are.
There'll be plenty of lights on board, Beryl.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Those great ships there in Southampton water, with all those soldiers and airmen on board, where do you imagine they'll be sending them?
How should I know, Beryl? Winston Churchill doesn't ring me up for advice, you know, every time he wants to send a division of troops abroad.
Do you suppose any of them will be going to Egypt?
Very probably.
When you go there, will you go by ship?
How do I know? When the time comes, somebody will just send for me and say, this is it, and I'll be told if I'm to go by ship or in an aircraft flying out to Egypt.
I hope it's by aircraft.
So do I.
Tom?
Hmm?
You love aircraft, don't you?
You know I do. Well, you do too, surely.
Oh, because I work for an aircraft company. No, of course I don't. Not love them the way you do. I mean, I'm only a filing clerk. I could be that in any business firm. It's different for you.
Oh?
I remember the day you joined the company.
It was almost exactly 8 years ago, in September 1935.
You remember that?
Of course I do.
Well, I never.
I knew that very first day your first love would always be aeroplanes. You had a sort of starry look about you.
You must be psychic or something.
A girl doesn't have to be psychic to see what it is a man really loves. Tom, how did you first come to be mixed up with aeroplanes?
Didn't I ever tell you?
If you had, I wouldn't be asking now, would I?
Well, in the summer of 32, Sir Alan Cobham came down here to Southampton with his flying circus. I knew from the very first day I saw him stunting in a lincock that I simply had to get a job with that circus.
And you did?
Eventually.
What sort of job?
Oh, general dog's body to start with.
Mm.
Then I sort of wangled myself into the Gretna Green display.
What on earth was that?
It was an elopement.
What?
I had to dress up as a girl, and the chap I was eloping with to Gretna Green, he and I tried to get away in a terrible old T-model Ford, and Father chased us all over the aerodrome in a Tiger Moth.
Father?
One of Sir Alan's pilots.
Oh.
He chased us all over the place, bombing us with little bags of flour and toilet rolls. All the crowd used to love it. So did we.
Who was your intended?
You mean in the car?
Yeah.
Connie Shacklin used to drive the Model T.
What a strange name for a boy.
Well, Connie was short for Constantine.
Oh.
Yes, it wasn't only his name that was strange. He was a strange chap altogether.
In what way?
Well, he was a cheerful enough chap, about my own age, a bit older maybe, with straight black hair. But, well, he looked like a chink.
Huh?
You know, he was yellow-skinned, and his eyes were different.
Was he really Was he really Chinese?
Blowed if I know, really. I remember I asked him once if he was Church of England or Presbyterian or what.
And what did he say?
He said, damned if I know. Then he told me he was born in Penang, that his father was a Buddhist, but that he himself had been Church of England at school.
What about his mother?
That day he said to me, Mother brought us to England when Father died. She was born in Irkutsk, so she's Greek Orthodox.
What a funny mixture.
Well, it seems his mother married again. He told me she was in a place in California called San Diego with his sister. Well, when I left the circus, he was going to join them there in the States. He was going to try and get a job in one of those big aircraft factories they've got in California.
Do you still keep in touch with him?
We swore we'd write, you know, but somehow we never did.
Tom, when you go out to our repair branch in Egypt, you'll write to me, won't you?
Of course I will. You know that.
Have you really got to go?
You don't get much choice these days. After all, there is a war on.
Oh, this blasted war. I thought we were going to get married around Christmas time. That's what you said.
Yes, I know, love. Look, what say we get married now?
Oh.
Before I go.
Oh, Tom, do you really want us to get married?
Do I want to? Here, let me show you. My darling Beryl, it's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I really should be working. But I especially wanted to write to you today because today I've been out here exactly 2 years. All letters, you see, have to be on the census desk by 5 o'clock. That's why I'm pinching an hour of the firm's time. I haven't had a letter from you for nearly a month now. I just can't understand it, as you usually write every week. It could be, of course, that a couple of ships with your letters on board have been sunk in the Med. I really have liked my job out here. As you know, we operate a large number of aircraft in this theater, and I'm responsible for keeping them in the air. All except engine overhauls, that is. I fly a great deal, and I really feel I'm doing a worthwhile job of work out here. I get on very well with what most people here call the WOGs. I now know a bit about Syrian, Iraqi, and Egyptian aircraft hands. It's no use at all saying, as some people out here are apt to, that these chaps are a lot of monkeys who have dropped out of the trees and that they aren't reliable. They're reliable, and you can use them all right if you take the trouble to learn about them. And if you do that, you'll find the work is liable to come out a good deal cheaper, because their wages are much less. When I say I like it out here, it doesn't mean I'm not longing to get back home. I am. Now that the Japs have packed it up in the Far East, we'll be sweating on the top line to see who'll be sent home first. As far as I can see, I've got quite a good chance. I've been out here longer than most of the lads, and the boss has been dropping a few hints recently. Whenever it is, it can't be too soon for me. I want to get back to England so that we can set up our own home and start living our life together. Come in.
The mail's just arrived, Tom.
About ready time, too.
There was a letter for you, so I thought I'd bring it along.
It's from my wife, is it?
Well, it's not her writing.
Here, let's have a deco. That's funny.
Oh, what's up?
It's not from Beryl. It's from her father.
Oh, well, I hope everything's all right.
So do I.
Well, I'll push off. I'm up to my eyes in it this afternoon.
Something's up, I know it. Dear Tom, we've been having trouble here, I'm sorry to say. And Beryl wants me to write...
To write and tell you before she writes herself. And her ma and I think that that's best too. As you can imagine, it's been very dull for our Beryl since you went away, and she went up to London some time ago and got in with some Polish officers in the West End. Well, she took to going about with one of them, a certain Captain Wysock, and the long and the short of it is, Tom, she's going to have a baby in January. Now, I know this will be a great blow to you, Tom. I can't tell you how sorry we all are. Captain Wysock came down for a long talk, and he really was heartbroken about you. Even so, when we'd all talked it over, we thought it would be best if there was a divorce and he married Beryl. Captain Wysock's father is a Polish count. They've got big estates at a place called Jabinka. It's near Warsaw. Beryl wants me to say she sends her love, and we all send our sympathy in what must be a terrible shock for you. But I'm sure it will all be for the best.
Your affectionate father-in-law, Albert Cousins. Tom Cutter.
Oh, Tom? Bill here.
Yes?
Tom, Jackson's breathing down my neck.
Oh?
He wants to know if you can guarantee that repeat will be ready for tomorrow morning's flight to Khartoum.
What's the trouble?
Well, it needs a right-hand contact breaker, and the stores have only got left-hand ones.
Then we'll have to get one somewhere else.
Well, that's just it. I've been telephoning all over the ruddy place. As far as I can see, there just isn't a right-hand contact breaker in Cairo.
Well, somebody must have one.
Well, you tell me who he is, then.
I'm coming out. Tell Jackson the repeat will be ready to fly at 0800 hours.
Oh, well, if you say so.
I do say so.
Well, then that letter did contain bad news, Tom.
Why do you say that?
Well, because of the way you're behaving.
It so happens it contained nothing but ordinary mundane news of day-to-day family affairs. Now, Bill, get cracking on that contact breaker.
Roger.
Come on.
Oh, God. It's you, Tom.
What is it, Mrs. Cousins? What's happened?
Oh, God.
Where's Beryl? Isn't she in?
You didn't get my letter.
I got a letter from your husband telling me about Beryl and this so-called Polish cunt.
No, not that letter. Come in, Tom. Oh, I wish Father were here to tell you.
Tell me what?
It's Beryl. She did it in the middle of the night when we was all asleep. It was in the kitchen. You can still smell the gas.
I'm back, Ma.
Oh, Tom! Oh, my boy. Father, it's Tom!
Hello, Tom, lad.
Oh, Tom. Tom.
Oh, you mustn't cry, Ma. The war's over. I'm back. In one piece.
Oh, it's good to see you, son.
He's looking so brown, isn't he?
Well, love, he's been out in those foreign parts for 2 years.
We know about poor Beryl, Tom. We're ever so sorry.
Yes.
It must be awful for you.
Oh, I'll just have to get used to it, Ma, that's all.
That Polish officer Beryl took up with, Tom, he wasn't a count, was he?
No, Ma. I never thought he was for a moment.
No.
Even when I got Beryl's letter. And there weren't any big family estates at some unpronounceable place near Warsaw. Huh. Funny how easy you can impress a girl, isn't it?
Well, you must be starving, and we were just about to have tea, weren't we?
Yes, take your coat off, son, and pull up a chair.
Now, Dad, that's a coincidence. I got 2 pairs of kippers this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Tom, you remember how you always loved a kipper for your tea when you were a lad?
Well, Tom, you've had a few days to make up your mind. How do you feel about it?
It's a very generous offer, Mr. Evans, but there are a number of things against it.
Hmm?
All things which are nothing to do with you or the company.
I see.
I dare say you know that my wife committed suicide.
I didn't know whether to mention it or not.
The salary is good, 900, but... Well, say I took over Mr. Holden's old office here, as you suggested.
Yes, Tom.
Unless I come to work each day by helicopter, well, I'd have to use the same streets I used to walk along with Beryl. The same passages, the same roads round the works.
Yes, I thought perhaps you'd feel this way.
Oh, don't think I'm not grateful, Mr. Evans. I am. It's a good job, and I'm a fool to turn it down. I realize that. But, well, there's no future, is there, working in a place that's going to send you right round the bend?
You're right, of course. No. How are you fixed for cash?
I've got a fair amount put by. I was saving up for furniture.
Yes. I see. So, well, what'll you do, Tom, with this new chapter of your life?
Mr. Evans, I'm headed back to the Middle East, to the Persian Gulf.
To do what?
Look, I've been to Abadan and Basra and Kuwait and as far down as Bahrain. There's no way of getting round that part of the world except by car or plane and...
I dare say traveling by car in that kind of territory isn't much fun, eh?
Nobody, as far as I know, is doing any air charter work out there. And I've got a hunch that if I went out there with a light aircraft, like, say, a Foxmoth, I might make a living.
Yes. Well, you could well be right. Well, a Foxmoth might be just the job. I was up in Leicester the other day at Kennington's.
Don't think I know them.
Oh, you ought to, Tom. Kennington's happen to have a Foxmoth going.
I knew this was going to be my day.
Well, dismantled, hasn't been used for years.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
It needs a lot of work on it. Well, I dare say you could snap it up with a decent second-hand engine for 120, 130 quid.
Yes, I could manage that.
Good. Well, all I can do now is wish you luck. No, better than that. I can give you a letter to the managing director of Kennington's. He's an old friend of mine.
Good evening.
My name's Tom Cutter.
Flight Lieutenant Allen. Welcome to Muharraq Island.
Thanks.
Come far?
Eastleigh, Southampton.
Mate, how long did it take you?
8 days.
I say, that's a pretty good show in a kite like that. Going on to India?
I was thinking of staying here a bit, in case there was a bit of charter work to be picked up.
Oh, pity you weren't here yesterday, then.
Why's that?
Party of 3 engineers going down to Muscat. New water supply or something in the plumbing line.
Uh-huh.
Flew out from England by BOAC. Then this morning they took off in a chartered Arab dhow for Sharjah. 400 blinding miles. Shouldn't really care to do that in a dhow. Take them between 3 and 4 days.
How much further is it to Muscat?
250, I'd say. I think they were going to charter a truck from Sharjah to Muscat.
I see. Any fuel at Muscat?
Yes, and a strip. We keep a small party there.
Do you think I could get a telegram off to those chaps at Sharjah offering my Fox for charter?
Well, the pods in the control tower are always nattering to their mates down in Sharjah. Dare say if you talk to them nicely, they'll bung your telegram over the RT. The land telegraph line's always going for Burton anyway. I tell you what, you've got to report to the control tower anyway. We'll wander down together. I'll introduce you to the pods there, and we'll see what can be done.
My name's Harry Ford, Mr. Cutter, sales manager. This is Mr. Taverner, our secretary.
How do you do?
Mr. Taverner's seen your letter from Bahrain.
Yes, so let's get down to business.
For the last 6 months, I've been doing air charter work in the Persian Gulf with a Foxmoth.
You fly yourself?
I'm an engineer by rights, but I've been granted a provisional B license, which I have to renew every month.
Plenty of charter work?
Far too much for one aircraft. That's why I've come back to Britain to buy a second.
On credit, you said. And from us?
Yes, on credit from you.
What's the name of your company, Mr. Cutter?
I haven't got a company. Just a 15-year-old Arab boy called Tariq who cleans and washes the aircraft for 20 rupees a month, and a Foxmoth.
Just one Foxmoth?
Just one Foxmoth, and a walloping great profit. Here are my accounts, certified by the Iraqi accountant at Bahrain, together with a complete schedule of all jobs I've done, the hours flown on each, the payments, and all the rest of the gubbins.
I'll have a look at those.
You'll find them all in order, Mr. Taverner.
Yes, I dare say.
Your Foxmoth, I take it, is out of service in your absence?
Not at all. Being flown by a chap I got to know recently called Gujar Singh. He's a Sikh, and a damn good type. He was in the Royal Indian Air Force during the war. Did 300 hours on Hurricanes.
He's on your staff, too?
No, but he wants to come in with me. If, that is, I can get this Basing air truck out of you.
On credit?
On credit.
Wish all our clients came to the point so quickly.
If we were to give you a hire purchase agreement, Mr. Cutter, over a year, say, could you find anyone to guarantee your payments?
Nope. I've got no rich friends. All I've got is the record in those papers there of what I can do. They show I can keep up my payments.
How much could you put down as a deposit?
£1,000.
Only 20% of the cost of the aircraft. From these profits, these accounts of yours show you ought to be able to do better than that, Mr. Cutter.
I've got to keep some liquid capital in my business.
Even so, you can't pay off £4,000 in a year.
Why not? You can see there what I make with a single Foxmoth.
Yes, you've done well, no denying that. You've been doing all the work yourself so far. But if we let you have the air truck, you'll have to employ pilots and ground engineers, quite apart from having to insure our machine with a policy we approve of. You're going to have to start employing staff now, Mr. Cutter.
I agree. Do you know what I'm paying the Sikh who's flying the Foxmoth in my absence?
A pilot working from Bahrain, let's see, 1,000 to 1,200?
250 rupees a month.
How much is that?
£220 a year.
With flying pay?
Nope. Flat.
You propose this native pilot should fly the air truck?
Why not? Done 300 hours on Hurricanes, most of it operational without a single accident.
Oh, yes, but...
If this air truck of yours is so ready difficult to fly that he's not safe on it, then there's no point in continuing our discussion.
Easy, Mr. Cutter. Easy.
If the business grows, would you employ more than one native pilot?
Very probably. I can't afford British pilots at $1,000 a year.
But ground engineers for your maintenance.
I'm fully licensed as a ground engineer myself. By the time I need them, I'm pretty certain some Asiatics will turn up. I had some working under me in Egypt during the war. They were all right.
You're, planning an air service staffed entirely by wogs.
I prefer to call them Asiatics. If you want to sell me an air truck, you can quit calling my staff wogs.
No offense meant, Mr. Carter. One uses these slang phrases. I apologize. The point you're making is that by using Asiatic staff, you can reduce your overheads to the point where you can bear the higher purchase cost of 80% of an air truck spread over a year.
Correct. I can pay off the aircraft and still make money.
Yes, I see.
Harry, I've been going through these figures of Mr. Cutter's very carefully indeed.
Mm-hmm.
He's a go-ahead young man I think we can afford to do business with. Mr. Cutter, £1,500 down and the machine's yours.
It's good of you to let me bunk in with you.
Not at all, Mr. Cutter. We had been warned to expect you. Now, don't expect too much. It's only a dormitory room with 4 beds. Batavia's full of the military, and the Netherlands hotel's packed like a sardine tin.
How's the war against the Indonesian Republicans going?
Slowly. Very slowly indeed. You said you were chartering down here?
Yes, I brought a young Dutch-American scientist down here in my air truck, and I've got a small return load waiting for me.
Now, this is your room?
Thanks.
I think perhaps it would be as well to go in quietly. This is a very hot place, and most of us take a siesta after the midday meal.
I'll be as quiet as a mouse.
I'll see you in the bar later.
Fine.
Who's that?
Oh, I'm terribly sorry to disturb you. I hope none of my gear's in your way.
Do you think you can do the girl in the Gretna Green show this evening?
Connie Shacklin.
Tom. You know, I couldn't believe my eyes for a moment. Tom Cutter.
But this is... But it's quite fantastic.
But tell me, look, what on earth are you doing down here? Are you still in aircraft?
You bet. I'm operating in the Persian Gulf. Got a Foxmoth and a new Basing air truck. Came down here on a charter job. What about you?
Well, I was with Siamese Airways until a short time ago.
But I thought they only took Asiatics.
Well, what do you call me, Tom? My father was a full Chinese, my mother was Russian, I speak Cantonese and a little Mandarin. And now that I'm out here, I spell my name as my father used to, in 2 words, Shacklin. I'm an Asiatic.
Not a proper one.
Well, proper enough to get a job with Siamese Airways.
But you said you'd left them.
Well, now I'm with Dwight Shafter.
Who's he?
Oh, don't you know about him?
No.
Well, Dwight's a gun runner. He flies arms into the Indonesian Republicans, or he did. The Dutch have got him now, here in Batavia. He crashed in the jungle. He's in hospital, under guard.
And you work for this chap?
That's right.
Well, I'll be damned. But now the Dutch have got this chap under lock and key, what's your position?
Well, I paid the staff a month's wages out of the money Dwight left, and I've been given a safe conduct to proceed out of Dutch territory at will.
Then I've got a proposition to put to you.
All right, and I've got one for you. You first.
My show at Bahrain is growing. Come and work for me as chief engineer. I need somebody like you.
Well, I'm still working for Dwight Shafter. I've got a carrier of his to look after.
But the Dutch will put him in prison, surely.
Oh, yes, he'll go to prison. For years, probably. But he's got plenty of money. Money the authorities here can't touch. If he wants me to stay on and serve his interests while he's in prison, then I'll do so.
But why?
Because I like and respect the man. He's risked his life, his liberty, to help millions of Asiatics struggling for their freedom. Now that he has lost his own freedom, I can't very well abandon him, can I?
What about this Cornell carrier of his?
Shall I make my proposition now, Tom?
Shoot.
I think you should take over the carrier.
What?
Yep. Fly it to Bahrain and operate it there. The carrier is a real aeroplane.
But it costs more than 60,000, quite beyond my resources. Besides, what makes you think this chap Shafter wants to part with it?
Well, what else can he do? What he needs is someone who will fly it out of this area, preferably to British Empire territory, when the laws of property are clearly framed and easy to understand.
I'm not sure.
Well, if you took it over, I'd ask Dwight if I could go with the aircraft and work for you. You know, I think he'd agree to that. I think he'd want me to stay with his airplane.
Oh, it's 10 times heavier than anything I've ever flown before. What happens if I crash it?
I know this, Tom. You will fly that aircraft, and you will not crash it.
I don't mind having a stab at it if nobody else minds.
They're easier to fly as they get bigger, provided you're not afraid of them.
and you won't be afraid.
It's a long time since I've been afraid of an aeroplane. I thought you'd be in the prison hospital, Mr. Shafter.
I guess they wanted to keep me alive for the trial. Jacqueline says you want to charter my Cornell carrier?
Well, it's going to cost me 600 pounds in fuel oil and landing fees to even get it to my base at Bahrain. That'll have to be recovered out of profits before I can pay you anything at all.
Baloney. Fuel cost you nothing.
Huh?
There's over 12 tons of 100 octane in my store at Dam Ray Fong right now. You can fill her up, take 5 tons with you in the cabin. Oil there, too. The rest, chicken feed.
Not to me, I'm afraid.
Look, that carrier's worth $5,000 a month in charter fees.
Why don't you offer it to somebody like Pan American, then?
Huh? Oh, wise guy, what's your angle?
I suggest this, Mr. Shafter, as an equitable deal in the circumstances. I'll take the carrier with any fuel and spares from Dam Ray with Connie Shacklin as my engineer.
Okay, Tom, that's a deal. Hell, I wish some guy had given me a deal like that when I was young. I wouldn't have needed to go running guns.
It's fair enough.
Oh, maybe. All the same, you're a darn lucky guy. Say, you've known Jacqueline quite a time, I believe.
We started off together as kids in the same flying circus.
Yeah? He's a fantastic engineer, that guy. One you can really trust. But he's got some mighty strange ideas for an engineer about religion, that kind of thing.
Does it affect his work?
Damn right it does. Makes his work a whole heap better.
I don't understand.
Down at Dam Ray Fong, this guy Jacqueline's got a statue of a Buddha set up in a kind of little pagoda nearby where we park the aircraft. He holds a kind of prayer meeting there twice a day before they start work on the machines and after they knock off in the evening.
Connie holds prayer meetings?
I'll say in Chinese, Siamese, something like that. The other engineers come to it, the local labor come to it, and the girls, they come too. Oh, yeah, your pal Jacqueline is quite a hot gospeler.
But is that sort of thing usual in this part of the world?
I've never seen it done before.
Connie started it then?
Well, must have done.
Do you know why?
I did ask him once. Note he said, men work better if they pray. Just like an old preacher I knew back in Indiana when I was a kid. You know, maybe there's something in this religion business after all. I wouldn't know. I just never got around to giving it a whirl. Too darn busy flying.
You really think I know enough about this machine to take her up, Connie?
I'm certain you do.
We've come a long way since we used to tear about in that Ford in the Gretna Green display at Cobham Circus.
Yeah, those were good days.
Connie, all those people by your pagoda there, the engineers and the rest, they're all on their knees. They're not praying, are they?
Yes, they are.
For me, I take it, so that I don't make an almighty muck of this.
No, for us both. Probably more for me than for you.
Well, it's nice to know somebody cares.
Hello, Tom. We're at prayer. Perhaps you've come to join us.
Yes, if you'll have me.
Come forward, Tom. Will you kneel down?
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh, the laborer at your side, he wants to give you some of the gladiola blossoms he has in his hands.
Thank you.
It is written in the Dhammapada, You yourself must make the effort. Buddha can only indicate the way. Cut down the love of self as one cuts the lotus in the autumn. Give yourself to following the path of peace. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum.
Hello there, Tom. Another gin.
Not for a moment, thanks, Jim.
Next one's on me, anyway. How's old Harpick getting on?
Who the hell's Harpick?
Your chief engineer.
You mean Shaq Lynn? He's doing fine. Why do you call him Harpick?
He's clean round the bend, your mate.
He's a damn good engineer, I know that. Got all the other maintenance boys on the ball.
I know, nattering religion to them all the time.
Well, what of it? Do a few of you clods good if you thought about your so-called immortal souls for a bit.
Oh, come off it, Chum. You can't maintain aircraft with the Koran in one hand and a spanner in the other.
Well, he's doing it, isn't he? Who told you, anyway?
It's getting talked about all over town. The buzz is, if you want a drop of religion for one or other reason, you can listen to the imam in the mosque or pop along to old Harpick in the hangar.
Do you a bit of good to do either. I'd bet my next charter fee you haven't been in a church of any kind since the last time you were marched there on church parade.
We are a peculiar people, we who work upon and care for aeroplanes. For common men, it is enough to pray 5 times in each day, as the Imam dictates and as it is ordained in the Quran. But we are different, we engineers. We are called to a higher task than common men, and Allah will require much more from us than that. Have you got a 5/16 box there, Typhoon?
Yeah, teacher.
Thanks. Now, hold it firm. That's right, just like that. How many prayers did God first ordain were to be said every day?
50, teacher.
That is correct. I see that all of you do not know this, or you have forgotten it, and yet you of all men should know it.
Guja Singh?
Mr. Cutter.
How are things in the hangar?
Oh, they go very well.
I suppose all this religion is all right.
I think it's a very good thing, sir.
Flight Lieutenant Allen says Shacklin's being talked about in turn.
Yes. There is talk in the souk about him. You know that Shacklin is great friends with the Imam.
No, Guja. I didn't know that.
They have long talks together frequently.
Look, Guja, just what is Shacklin? A Muslim?
He is not a Muslim. At first, I thought he was a Buddhist. Now, I just don't know.
Today I noticed you praying with him there before the Buddha. I thought you were a Sikh.
I noticed you there too, Mr. Cutter. And I thought you were a Christian. Perhaps Shacklin is just an ordinary man like you and I, who has the power to make men see the advantage of turning to God. No offense, Mr. Cutter, but you Westerners were not religious people, as we understand it in Asiatic countries.
No, perhaps we're not.
Few of you pray to God in public, or even in private, once a week. But God, and prayer to God, that is necessary to us. Shacklin understands this very well indeed. I think that in a year's time you may find that your ground engineers are as good as, well, perhaps even better than British engineers.
Yes, you may be right there.
If that happens, you will have a maintenance staff that is unique in all Asia, in more ways than one.
Sorry to send for you, Connie, when I know how busy you are.
There's some trouble, Tom?
Well, no trouble as yet. But I'm a bit worried about all these casual Arabs who drift in from Muharraq and even across the causeway from Bahrain for the sole purpose, it seems, of listening to you in the afternoon when you're saying your prayers. Now, for one thing, these chaps are a nuisance when our lot are working, and, well, we could have our tools stolen, you know.
Yeah, I see.
We simply can't have all these spare bods round our aircraft.
No, I quite agree. I'll put up a notice in Arabic, and I'll string a rope across the mouth of the hangar.
Good man.
But I'm afraid they'll come just the same. You won't mind if they sit just outside the hangar, beyond the rope?
What do they come for?
They come to join in our prayers.
Well, I don't want any tools stolen.
Oh, they wouldn't do that, Tom.
Oh, says you.
No. They only come here to pray. They wouldn't steal anything from a mosque.
You mean they come to our hangar as a mosque?
In a way, yes. Tom.
Yes?
My mother died last week.
I'm terribly sorry about that, Connie. Terribly sorry indeed.
These things have to happen.
What about your sister? What's she doing?
She's a secretary with an American export firm.
What a pity it is you both have to live and work on opposite sides of the world. Look, if your sister would like to join us here, well, we can give her a tryout in the office.
Well, that's good of you, Tom. I don't really know if she'd fit in here, but I'll write and put it to her anyway.
Oh, this heat. God, what a day it's been.
It's been rather a strange day, Jim.
125 in the ruddy shade. Strange in what way?
I took a stroll down to the hangar late this afternoon.
Well, nothing very strange about that.
You know we strung a rope across the entrance?
To keep fuzzy-wuzzy tea leaves out, yes, I know.
There was an enormous Hudson saloon parked there.
Oh, the Sheikh Abdul Qadir drives a Hudson saloon.
He was there.
Oh, you're kidding.
With his wazir, Hussein.
Yes, I know him.
Well, I didn't quite know what to do, so I wandered up, looked uncomfortable, and said, "This is a great honor, Mr. Hussein. The rope wasn't meant to keep you out."
And quick as a flash, he said?
Well, he introduced me to the Sheikh, and the old boy bowed low. To me, Tom Cutter. It was fantastic. I said to him, so many people come here to listen to what Jacqueline has to say to the engineers that we had to put this rope up, I'm afraid. But if you wish to hear more, will you please come inside?
What did the old boy say to that?
Well, he mumbled something I couldn't make out. Then Hussein said, "The Sheikh wishes very greatly to hear the teacher, but he's rather deaf. It is very kind of you." So I lifted the rope for them, and they walked slowly and majestically into the hangar itself.
Well, blow me down.
I introduced them to Connie, and that was that.
Your Buddhist mate's really making a name for himself, isn't he?
Jim?
Yeah?
You remember I told you I was flying home to try to raise the money for another aircraft?
Oh, that second-hand tramp freighter, yeah.
I'll be taking off in a day or two. I'd like you to keep an eye on this business in the hangar for me.
Will do, Tom.
Oh, I don't mean put any restriction on Jacqueline. I trust him. Just keep a weather eye open, in case the whole thing starts getting out of hand.
Tom, what made you bring me up here today?
I used to cycle here weekends when I was a youngster and fish. I love Twyford. And I love this part of the river.
I came with you once.
Did you? For heaven's sake, so you did.
And I caught 2 more fish than you did.
Ah, that's what drove it from my memory. You've changed a bit since then, Doris.
Oh, didn't you expect me to? I'm 24, you know. You've changed as well.
Oh, I don't know.
Beryl changed you.
Yes, I suppose so.
That happened a long time ago, Tom.
Yes.
I don't know the rights or wrongs of it. But I do know this. There's nothing in that old story to force you to spend the rest of your life in the Persian Gulf, away from everybody you know.
But I like working there.
I know why you went out there in the first place. You went to find a sort of hermitage.
What a strange thing to say.
It's true, Tom.
Yes, perhaps it is.
Well, it's high time you came back into circulation. If you stay out there much longer, you'll go round the bend. You're laughing at me. You think it's silly.
No, Doris. You're right. You know, I've got a chap working for me at Bahrain now that everyone says is round the bend.
Now, what's wrong with him?
He believes in God. He teaches engineers who work with him to turn to God in everything they do upon the aeroplanes. Oh, he's obviously going round the bend. Everybody says so.
But surely what he does, that's not wrong.
I don't know whether it's right or wrong. All I know is it's liable to raise a packet of trouble any time.
That's why you're so anxious to get back.
Yes. I managed to catch a lift out next week, but it's to Rangoon.
Rangoon?
Well, it happens to suit me splendidly. I've got some business to sort out there.
How long before you leave?
5 days.
I see.
You know, I really have enjoyed this afternoon. We must try and do it again before I leave.
I'm very glad indeed to see you, Mr. Cutter, but intrigued. I wonder what it was induced you to seek me out.
Well, Major Spencer, Father, my business in Rangoon is with an old friend called Umayin. He told me an Englishman turned Buddhist monk was living in an ashram here and offered to bring me along.
I'm very glad he did. Umayin is also a friend of mine, and he told me something.
Oh?
He said you have a man working for you in Bahrain, a most remarkable man.
He's my chief engineer. His name is Shaklin.
And he is remarkable?
To you, probably not. In England, I suppose people would say he was mad. All I say is that he's a first-class engineer who makes men reliable by injecting religion into their daily work.
Several people have talked to me about him.
What? Here in Rangoon? All this distance away?
Indeed, Mr. Cutter. He made a great impression on the monks in Bangkok. An Arab merchant from Aden came here to Rangoon last month and told one of my religious friends about the teaching that was going on in Bahrain.
Oh?
A Parsi from Karachi told us the same story. And then came Umayin, who has actually been taught by this man. And now you arrive.
I'll tell you anything I can, Father.
No, I have things to tell you. Every religion in the world requires to be refreshed from time to time by a new teacher. Gautama, Muhammad, Jesus, these are some of the great teachers of the past who have refreshed men's minds and by their lives and their example brought men back to truth. We are very far from the truth now, far enough here, even farther in the West. Belsen and Buchenwald exceeded any horrors of the war here in the East.
Yes.
But we are all in this together, wandering far, far from the truth. This thing is beyond the power of ordinary men to put right. We must look for the new teacher. One day, the power that rules the universe will send us a new teacher who will lead us back to truth and help us to regain the way. There have been 4 Buddhas in the history of the world, of whom Gautama was the last. One day, a 5th will come to aid us, if we will attend to him. Here in Burma, we earnestly await his coming, for he is the hope of the world.
Do we know anything at all about this new teacher?
Indeed. We know that he is very near to us in time. We think he is already born. We think that his birthplace is in that part of the continent of Asia where Tibet and Russia and China meet. We think that he will be of mixed Eastern and Western stock. We believe this man is the savior of the world.
Do we know where this man is going to teach?
That has not been revealed. The only certain fact we know is that his ministry will last for 4 years and 23 days.
It is kind of you, Mr. Cutter, to come all this way to the souk to speak with us.
Jacqueline said you wanted to see me, Mr. Hussein.
My master, the Sheikh of Kulal, was told by Jacqueline that you have bought another large aeroplane.
A tram freighter, yes?
Yes. My master believes you may have to resort to the usurers to find the money to pay for it.
Well, it's going to be difficult.
I do not wish to be impertinent, but my master asks me to suggest to you that he should lend you the money to pay for this airplane.
But the sum involved is £55,000.
Spare parts and auxiliary equipment will cost another 5,000 or so. Say 65,000 in all, about 8 lakhs of rupees. I do not think that will be beyond my master's resources.
But, Mr. Hussein, what I don't understand...
May God protect you, Mr. Khatter.
Well, Major Hereward, I'm sure you didn't come here to pass the time of day.
No. I understand you've been borrowing money from the Sheikh of Kulal.
That's right, though I fail to see
I
what...
happen to be the liaison officer here in Bahrain. Quite frankly, we don't care to see the Sheikhs lending money to buy aeroplanes.
The loan wasn't my doing.
How did the Sheikh know you needed money?
Perhaps my chief engineer told him I was expanding.
Jacqueline?
That's his name.
He goes and talks some sort of bastard religion to the old man.
In his spare time.
Mr. Cutter, it's being suggested your chief engineer used his religious influence to get you a large loan of money.
I wonder who dreamt that one up. Now, let me tell you something. I could pay this loan back in a month from now, but I shan't do that, and you know why? Because you and your mates at the bloody residency have come to the conclusion that I'm a crook.
That's rather extreme language, isn't it?
The situation, to my mind, calls for extreme language. Good afternoon, Major. Come in. Hello, Arjan.
Jacqueline has delegated a pleasant duty to me, Mr. Cutter, to introduce to you his sister. Her name is Nadezhda.
How do you do, Miss Jacqueline?
Hello.
Oh, do sit down.
Thanks. My brother said that maybe you had a job for me here.
Can you take dictation at the rate I'm speaking now?
Surely, Mr. Cutter. I can take it quicker than that.
Any ideas about the wages I'd have to pay you?
Well, I wouldn't know what people pay out here or what it costs to live.
I can't pay San Diego wages.
I guess that.
Tell you what I suggest. A bank cashier's wages here are 250 chips a month. I'll pay you that.
Okay.
If it doesn't work out, you come and tell me, Miss Jacqueline.
All right, I'll do just that.
Now, I'll ask Ajah Singh to show you around my little airborne empire. Oh, and of course your brother will be able to fix you up with living quarters. How are you getting on, Miss Jacqueline?
Mr. Cutter, I'd much rather you called me Nadezhda.
Right, Nadezhda it is. And I'm Tom.
Yes, I knew that. I like my job here.
You're a great help, particularly with the filing. That always killed me.
I like to see everything correct and properly entered up. It makes me feel good.
You're very like your brother. That's what he tells the chaps in the hangar.
Quite a few people around here seem to be taking an interest in what Connie says these days.
Practically every Asiatic ground engineer in the East seems to want to come and work here. Didn't you know this about Connie before you came here?
No. Oh, he was always a bit that way at home, but nobody ever listened to him. He didn't preach. He just had ideas.
We wouldn't pay any attention to them in England, I dare say. But they seem to fit in all right here.
Have you seen the way they treat him in the souk?
How do they?
Well, it's as though he were a prophet or something. They get up and do a kind of salam as he walks by.
There's no harm in that.
Yes, but now they're beginning to do it to me.
You?
Yes, it's because I'm the sister of Jacqueline, the teacher. Oh, Mr. Cutter's office? Yes, Major Hereward, he's here.
Cutter?
Major Hereward?
Yes?
I'm afraid I have some unwelcome news for you, Mr. Cutter.
Let's have it, then.
It's about your man, Jacqueline. feel at the Residency that the influence he is building up is quite undesirable, that it could even be dangerous.
You scare me rigid.
It's very unwise to monkey about with religious feelings in this country. I've been here 25 years, and I know. A new sect creates a schism, and out here schisms may erupt into open riots at any time.
There doesn't seem to me to be much harm in what he does.
That is for us to judge. Your man, Jacqueline, happens to be a British subject, and you're a British subject. So I'm afraid in this matter you will have to do what the resident decides.
Which is?
You'll have to get rid of him, Cutter. I'm very sorry about it, and so is the resident. But Jacqueline has got to go.
I asked you to come for a stroll, Connie, because...
They want to get rid of me, don't they?
How on earth did you know?
The Imam told me. Oh, a couple of days ago. The Bush Telegraph works very well here in Bahrain, you know. Far better than the Residency, no.
Those ruddy, pompous idiots. Ah, I can't think of a way out.
Now, look, Tom, we're friends. You mustn't let this trouble you. It's time that I went on, in any case. I've been here long enough.
I don't believe you meant to make a change.
I've done all I can in this place, and I should move on.
Look, why don't you go and start up in Bali for me?
Yes. Yes, I'll do that. But Typhoon can go on here in my place.
Splendid. That's settled then.
There's only one person damaged by this business.
Who's that?
You, Tom.
But nothing's happened to me.
Well, you were born a valiant and courageous man, and you can take hard blows. But you were going to sell this business, weren't you?
I did think of it, but I gave up the idea.
And with it you gave up England, and wealth, and an easy life in a beautiful country, and love, and the children you long for.
How did you know all this?
No, I haven't got second sight.
Well, it didn't seem to be a good idea to sell the business after all.
Did you hard-headed man, decide to stay on in this barren place as a penance?
I've got plenty to do penance for.
Well, when do you want me to go?
I'm laying on the first flight to Bali Thursday week. You and Finnet had better come with me on that. Oh, I'll take Arjat Singh, too, so he can learn the route. I think you ought to go with your brother, Nadezhda.
And he thinks I should stay with you.
I don't want to force you to stay here.
I want to stay, Tom.
Will there be trouble in the souk because Connie's been kicked out?
No. Well, not while he's here, but afterwards there may be. Some of them will miss him. Connie said to me today, if there should be any trouble, ask Tom to see that some fool of an officer doesn't close the aerodrome with an armed guard. The people may still want to come and pray.
I'll do what I can, but you know what stupid clods they are at the Residency.
Tom.
Hmm?
If Connie got ill or anything like that in Bali, could I go to him?
Of course. We'll bung you on the first available aircraft.
Well, that's all I wanted to know. Connie's way is spread a long, long distance from here. May spread even further. Engineers in the hangar in Rangoon worship in his way, and in Bangkok, in Karachi, and in Abadan.
What is this thing? A new religion?
As I see it, it's a way of life that brings men to worship through their work. Men who wouldn't worship in the old-fashioned way. Well, if that's what a new religion is, then I suppose this is one.
Well, certainly there's no harm in it.
Oh, no, only good. Only a lot of good.
Right, Morrison, let's have it.
Well, sir, these last few days there have been far more worshippers at sunset prayers than ever before.
I know that.
Cutter's loaded up his tramp, and he and Jacqueline take off at dawn tomorrow.
And what happened there this evening?
And there were 11 buses parked there.
11?
Some of them had made the journey more than once. There must have been 500 people there.
500? Good God.
Including the imam who led part of the service.
Any demonstration?
Oh, sir. No motion at all, just the prayers. Then they all queued up quietly and got into the buses.
That quiet. That lack of emotion. It doesn't seem right to me.
Not me, sir.
I think we may be in for trouble of some sort, sir.
Karachi Tower, this is George Abel Nan Howe Victor from Bahrain. ETA 1150 Zebra, over.
Howe Victor, Karachi Tower. You are clear to enter the zone. Over.
Karachi Tower, roger.
Howe Victor, Karachi Tower. Is Mr. Shak Lin on board your aircraft?
Karachi Tower, roger. Shak Lin is on board.
Howe Victor, roger. Thank you. Out.
Connie?
Yes?
Karachi Tower have just asked if you're on board. Are they expecting you?
Not that I know of.
Well, they obviously are.
Well, somebody must have got on the radio telephone from Bahrain.
I dare say that'll be it.
Hello there, Mr. Cutter. Did you have a good flight?
Yes, Salim, thank you. How goes it?
I'm very well, Mr. Cutter, sir, thank you. Mr. Cutter, is Shatlin with you?
He's here all right. You want to see him?
Oh, yes. Many people here wish to see him.
Well, don't keep him too long. I want to go through to Ahmedabad today as soon as we've refueled.
May we have 1 hour, please? Only 1 hour. It is most important to us.
1 hour? Okay. Connie, I want to take off in an hour. Let's say 3 o'clock local time, shall we? And Salim here wants to see you.
My word, Mr. Cutter, your ground engineers have certainly started something.
I don't interfere with what they do, Harrison. Phasiatics like to say their prayers. I don't think we've any right to stop them.
Well, all going around the bend, if you ask me. Can't get a thing done up here until they've all said a ruddy prayer or two. Now it's starting in Bombay. I came in yesterday in a commuter. She was missing a bit on the front bank, so I took her into Sind Airways for a plug change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was like being in a ruddy church.
Did they do the plug change okay?
Well, yes, they did, as a matter of fact. And they found 1 or 2 cowling cracks that our lazy oafs down in Bombay hadn't even noticed.
Ah.
They're quite a good crowd in Sind Airways, you know. If it wasn't for all this religious bunkum, I think they've come on quite a lot lately.
That's your answer, Harrison. I'm sorry about this crowd and all the rest of it, Maungbat, too. As chief engineer of the airline, you must be pretty fed up. It seems to have stopped work a bit.
I allowed for it, Mr. Cutter. We heard that Shaklin was to come through here 4 days ago, and so I arranged a holiday. We are treating today as a festival. It is a great honor. He is a very wonderful man.
All of you know that aeroplanes do not crash of themselves. You are intelligent men. You do not believe there is a jealous God who stretches out a peevish hand to take an aeroplane and hurl it to the ground. No. Aeroplanes come to grief because of wrong cravings and wrong hatreds and illusions in men's hearts. One of you may say, I have not got the key to the filler of the oil tank. I can't find it. I looked yesterday, and there was plenty of oil. It is probably all right today. So accidents are born, and pain, and suffering, and grief come to mankind because of the sloth of men.
May I come in, please, Mr. Cutter?
Hello, Salim. Come in, of course. I'm just using Maungbat 2's office to sort out my flight plan from Karachi back to Bahrain.
You delivered Shaklin safely in Bali?
Yes, Salim, very safely.
He has not come back with you.
No, he's staying there for a bit. He's looking after things for me there.
Mr. Cutter.
What is it, Salim?
You have heard about the trouble in Bahrain.
What happened?
They say there has been fighting in the souk. Much trouble, very much trouble. It is because the teacher was sent away. An English officer was stoned in the souk.
What?
It was the English liaison officer from the residency.
Hereward?
I do not know his name. He was very badly hurt.
Oh,
He would have been killed, but the teacher's sister was there.
When did this happen?
8 days ago. The day you flew in here with the teacher.
Will he recover?
It is all right now. He is in hospital. The sister was there, and it was she alone who saved him.
How? I mean, what did she do?
When they stopped the English officer's car and dragged him out and began to stone him, the sister stood over his body and said to the crowd, "This is a bad thing, and the teacher will be very angry when he comes to hear of it." After that, no single stone was thrown. I think everything is quiet now. If there was still any trouble, we would have heard of it, because the radio operators talk to each other all the time.
You've seen Hereward in hospital then, Nadezhda?
He wanted to thank me. Oh, it was pathetic. I think he really thought he was preventing trouble when he sent Connie away.
You didn't get hit by any of the stones?
Well, they stopped throwing as soon as they saw me.
Oh, thank God for that.
There wasn't any danger. I knew that from the very beginning.
Like hell you did. That's why you were sick afterwards.
How did you know I was sick outside the hospital?
Salim told me in Karachi last night.
They know about that already in Karachi?
Uh-huh.
Do they know in Bombay? In Rangoon? In Bangkok? In Bangalore? Does every little thing we do here in Bahrain go halfway around the world?
Yes, I think it does.
A goldfish in a glass bowl has more privacy than we have. I can't even be sick without the whole of Asia knowing.
That's what comes of having Connie for a brother.
Yes. Oh, by the way, Tarek wonders if he can go to Bali to work under Connie.
But Bahrain is Tarek's hometown.
He's writing up the gospel according to St. Tarek in a bunch of 5-cent exercise books. He's afraid there'll be a gap. Oh, Tom, please, stop it.
Nadezhda, that's the first time you've ever touched me. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm tired. I must pull myself together. No, I'm afraid Tarek can't go down to Bali. Connie's got Finnet with him. This particular section will have to be the gospel according to St. Finnet.
Tom, you're very, very tired. You must go home and rest.
Nadezhda, let me kiss you.
Tom.
It's good of you to see me at such short notice.
Look, Captain Morrison, now that you've taken over as liaison officer from Hereward, well, I was hoping things between the Residency and us might be different.
Yes, I sincerely hope they will be. You read Flecker, then? At the end of the day?
Sometimes.
I do, too. I see you've marked a couplet. Wonder if I know it.
And God shall make thy body pure, and give thee knowledge to endure this ghost life's piercing phantom pain, and bring thee out to life again.
Poet who knew about the people we're dealing with here.
Very much so.
Flecker would have understood Jacqueline.
Perhaps.
What sort of person do you really think he is?
He's a very good chap.
A lot of people here think he's divine.
Oh, he's not. He's a very good ground engineer with a bee in his bonnet.
Did you know the RAF is going to expand here?
What?
They're going to put a squadron on the aerodrome at last. The trouble is, you're occupying the only hangar.
They want to kick me up?
No, they want to build you a new civil aviation hangar and extend your present hangar across the vacant land to the south.
Hell, they can't possibly do that. They can't build over that bit. That's where the people come to pray.
It is RAF land.
It's holy ground. Honestly, Morrison, you'll have to put a stop to this business. If anyone stops the people coming here to pray, all hell will break loose.
Yet you don't believe Jacqueline is divine.
I don't. But other people do.
Yes. You know, I agree with you. I don't think we can let the RAF do this. It's going to make a lot of difficulties, but they'll just have to bung up their hangar somewhere else.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Now, I'll tell you something. I think we're going to have to work on the assumption that Jacqueline is divine.
Damn it, Morrison, I tell you he's not. He's just a damn good engineer who's going round the bend.
That wouldn't have been a bad description of the Prophet Muhammad. Only he happened to be a damn good merchant.
Mr. Carter, this is Dr. Khaled. He is my master, the Sheikh's medical advisor.
Doctor?
He has something to tell you.
The Sheikh of Kulal is a very old man. He is dying.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He is very, very ill and ready to put down his burdens. But first, he wishes very much to see Jacqueline, El Amin, the teacher, once again. To pray with him and receive his blessings before he lies down to die.
Well, Jacqueline can come back here on the next aircraft from Bali.
My master would not ask so great a man to come halfway across the world to visit him. He wishes that you should fly him and some members of his household to El Amin, so that he may talk with him before he dies.
If that's what he wants, Wazir, I'd be only too happy to arrange it.
May God protect you.
Have you had enough to eat, Tom?
Oh, I'm full up to here, Connie. This girl of yours, Madi Yasmi, she certainly knows how to cook.
Yes, I was lucky to get her to work for me when I first came here.
She seems to pray a lot, as you'll be doing, I take it, when Gujar flies in tomorrow with the Sheikh of Kulal.
Yes. She has prayed a great deal since she was a little girl. When she was 4 years old, she chose the shrine to Shiva to pray at, and she has prayed to Shiva ever since.
And what does she pray for?
The usual things. For her mother, for her good health and long life, for her father, for a good rice crop. And because she's a girl, she prays for a man who'll give her love and respect and children.
I was afraid there might not be enough work for you here. You know, training and directing other people.
Tom, can't you believe I'm a normal man? That I like to draw my pay for doing nothing and be lazy?
It'd be too easy if you were like that.
Why do you think I'm not?
If you were, as you say, you'd be living with Madi Yasmi. I think you ought to settle down here, Connie. Marry Madi Yasmi and raise a family like an ordinary man.
Are you an ordinary man?
You mean I'm a fine one to talk?
Well, your marriage ended in tragedy, but is that any reason why you should not marry again?
I was talking about you. You and Madi Yasmi.
And I was talking about you.
I've started something and I've got to see it through.
Yes. Yes, I know it is the work which prevents. I think that you and I are very much alike. Both in our own way, both in the same boat.
Both going round the bend, if you ask me.
Or perhaps the road has a curve in it. Perhaps it is necessary to go round the bend a little before you can see clearly to the end. When you see Nadezhda, will you give her a message?
Of course.
Tell her that I should be very happy indeed if she were to marry you.
I can't tell her that.
I think you can.
Well, I might, in my own time, but not just yet.
Then tell her in your own time, Tom. But be sure you tell her. Be sure.
Had a good flight, Guja?
Normal enough, except for one thing.
Oh?
Well, with the Sheikh of Kulal on board, the most elaborate arrangements had been made for us at every stop.
No difficulties, then?
The difficulty was to prevent ourselves taking more passengers. You see, it is not possible to keep secret a journey that concerns Jacqueline.
Here we go again.
At every stop, 10 or 15 engineers came up to me or the wazir, begging us to let them join us so that they might come here to listen to the teacher. We could have filled the aircraft 3 times over. It's the radio operators, of course. They're talking to each other day and night.
Tom, I think I'll call it a day.
You look pretty tired, Connie.
Well, it takes it out of you, talking to these people, you know.
The Sheikh, all of us, we'll be gone tomorrow.
Tom, you remember the first day the Sheikh's party arrived?
Yes.
And Dr. Khalid insisted on examining me.
Yes. As far as I know, he didn't find anything wrong.
He found something, all right.
What?
Well, nothing you can put your finger on. But he's good, that chap. And cagey. He thinks something's wrong with me. But I couldn't make him tell me what it is.
I'll have a word with him.
No, he won't tell you. Not until he's certain.
I think it's time Nadezhda had a bit of a holiday and came down here to see you.
Yes, it would do her good to get away from the Gulf for a bit.
I'll fix it then.
Tom, you will give her my message.
In my own time, and when I think she wants to hear it. On the telephone, Dr. Khalid, you said you had grave news for me.
I drove out to the aerodrome to tell you at once, Mr. Cutter.
It concerns Jacqueline?
Yes. I have received my report from Karachi. There it is.
Just tell me what it is, Doctor.
Jacqueline has chronic myelogenous leukemia.
I've never heard of it.
It is a very bad disease.
And its treatment?
It needs X-rays to cure it, and many modern things not found in many cities in Asia. Jacqueline should go to Europe. I can arrange treatment for him in Paris.
I see. What worries me is, will he go?
If you say he must, Mr. Cutter, I think he will agree. I am asked to tell you that my master the Sheikh wishes to spare no expense. This has been a great trouble to my master, this news of El Amin.
That's all Dr. Khalid told me, Nadezhda.
It's fatal, isn't it? He's going to die.
Oh, it's not as bad as that. But he'll have to go into hospital for treatment.
No, Tom. This is the end of it. There's no cure for this disease.
I can't believe that's true.
Well, it is. You'll see.
Look, Nadezhda, I think I'd better go down to Bali on the next trip. Connie's going to take some persuading.
Yes, I think so.
Will you come with me for the joyride?
Dear Tom, you've never got used to having me around, have you?
I don't suppose I ever shall. It's a fresh wonder every time I come into this office to find you there.
All right. I'll come to Bali with you. We'll do what we can for Connie.
Hello, Arjan Singh. You're back early.
Had good tailwinds. I've brought you a letter, Mr. Cutter.
From?
The Dutch governor in Bali.
Here, let me have a look. Oh, no.
What is it, Tom?
Dear sir, it is with regret that I write to say the continued residence of your engineer Jacqueline in Bali is no longer acceptable to the Royal Netherlands Government of Indonesia.
Oh, no.
I must demand this man be removed very soon and replaced by another engineer with Neutral Religious Association's B. Houseman Governor. Ah, that stupid clod. What's it all about, Arjan?
2 Dakota loads of pilgrims.
What?
3 days after you left, a Dakota flew into Bali from Bangkok. It had been chartered from the Thai-Cambodian airline by 30 ground engineers from Don Muang.
To visit Jacqueline?
And pray with him. Then a second Dakota turned up with Indians from Allahabad and Calcutta.
Oh.
And I heard at Karachi that a third Dakota will be leaving soon, packed with pilgrims. Oh, you can't reason with these people. I told them it was forbidden to go, but they said Jacqueline, the teacher, is ill.
Who pays for all this? It must cost a ruddy packet.
Thai Cambodia provided the aircraft from Bangkok for only 100 rupees.
You're joking.
No. Each engineer had agreed first he would work 10 hours on the aircraft next month without pay. It is all over the East that Jacqueline is a dying man. I see it is the truth. And so, on all the aerodromes, engineers who work according to his teaching, but who have never seen him, such men desire more than any earthly thing that they should set eyes upon Jacqueline before he dies, and hear his voice, and receive his blessing upon their work. This is a thing that many men desire more than anything else in the world.
Is Jacqueline very upset at this new expulsion order?
Nothing can cause him to grieve. He is not like ordinary men.
Are you glad to be back in Bahrain, Connie?
Amazed, more than anything.
It was Captain Morrison's doing.
The officer who took Major Hereward's place?
That's him. He reckons Hereward made a stupid mistake, and he's doing his best to make up for it.
We all make mistakes at times. Tom?
What is it, Connie?
Can you lend me one of your proctors for, a month or two?
Yes, of course. What do you want it for?
I'm going to die of this thing.
Oh, come on now.
Yes, they seem to think I've got less than a year, and I shan't be much good after the first 6 months. I'm content. Most of us don't get as much notice as that. Like you, Tom, I started something. Like you, I want to finish it. People who've never met me are beginning to put things down I've never said at all. Now, if I had a proctor, I could go round all these airfields and talk to the chaps. If this thing's going to die out with me, it doesn't matter. But if it's going to endure, well, I'd like it to be right.
I understand.
I want them to see me not as a kind of god, but as a real man. A man who sweats as they do, who gets hungry and tired and sleepy. I want them to remember me as a first-class ground engineer, not as a preacher.
If you're going to visit all the airfields in the East where men are talking about you, it's going to take you all your time.
I want to go on till I have to stop.
Who's going to fly the proctor?
Arjun Singh's offered to do that, if you'll give him leave without pay.
Whatever you say, Connie. Nadezhda.
Tom, where do you suppose Connie is at the moment?
Well, he's due in Agra tomorrow. Why?
Sheikh Abdel Kadir died this morning.
He was very old, my dear.
He left money for Connie to carry on his work.
Good for the old boy. How much?
Approximately £4 million.
4 million? You're out of your mind.
I saw Wazir Hussein in the souk. He told me.
God's sake, this is fantasy.
Yes.
What about Fahad, the new sheikh?
Well, he's determined that his father's wish shall be carried out.
Oh, it's too fantastic to grasp. Well, I'd better grab a machine and catch up with Connie at Agra. Heaven only knows what he's going to think about this.
Tom, I've thought long and deeply about this gift.
And?
The Sheikh of Hulal was my friend. He left me this money to build temples. But my teaching has no need of temples. My temples are the fitter's shop, the tool room, the hangar on the aerodrome.
I don't think the sheikh meant this money only for temples.
I cannot take the money. Let there be schools and orphanages, yes. And let my name be on them, if you wish, as one who loves Sheikh Abdel Kadir. Let Baraka be a center for learning and security in the Persian Gulf, so that no child, from Abadan to Muscat, shall need a home and not find one. And let there be a school for engineers, where men can learn my calling and my way of life.
Teacher.
Yes, Guja?
Teacher, what you say is true, yet all other creeds have found a use for money. The power of money has been used to do good things in the name of Jesus, for example.
I hope you're not comparing me with Jesus.
I know it is not the same. He was a woodworker.
All right, Guja, you have it your own way. But Jesus didn't need 500 lakhs of rupees to spread his word. Great money is great power. And I shall die very soon. If I take this money, someone must administer it after me. Many evils spring from power, and power corrupts. All power corrupts. Either my words will last after me and be believed by men, or they will die. If one thing were required to kill them with certainty, it is that my words should be spread after my death by the power of money. I'm very tired. Tom, you don't know how grateful I am that you were able to bring me to Damre Fong to die.
Don't talk like that.
What a long way you've come since Cobham Circus. You never thought you'd end up running an airline halfway across the world.
You never dreamt pilgrims would make their way to you from 5,000 miles away, to watch you talking to me, to pray beside your house.
It's funny the way things turn out. You know, they're saying in Rangoon that there is a new teacher.
I know.
And that his ministry will last for 4 years and 23 days.
Yes.
Well, when did I start teaching anybody anything? I don't even know myself. I haven't a clue.
When did you first come to Damre Fong?
Well, I worked that out. 4 years and 3 weeks last Thursday. But I never taught anybody anything here. So that one's wrong, too.
Chai Tai Fung was with you here at Damre Fong in the beginning. He's one of the most devout of your followers.
Tom, you mustn't add to this legend. Try and put an end to this thing if you can. I want people to remember me as a good ground engineer, not as a legendary mystic who was round the bend.
I'll do my best. Now you must rest.
Tom, he looked so peaceful.
Darling, he was a peaceful man.
I didn't even have to see your face. I knew in the plane that Connie had gone.
He went into a coma and died just before dawn.
Yes, I knew. We were just coming in to land at Karachi.
I've arranged for the cremation to take place early tomorrow.
Yes. Oh, poor Connie. And poor Tom.
I was prepared for him to die.
I didn't mean that. You know, Connie wanted us to marry one day.
He told me to tell you that.
Why didn't you?
I wanted to bide my time.
Well, it's bad luck on us, Tom. But I can't spoil it for all those people. I'm Connie's sister. If I married and had children like any other woman, well, it would detract from his memory. Maybe they'd begin to feel that Connie couldn't have been anything special after all.
But, darling...
No, Tom, I shall never marry anyone.
I don't think that's a very good idea.
It's what I'm going to do.
Where will you go?
Well, I'm going back to Penang, where I came from. I'm going to go to Mother Immaculate Mary to ask her if I can work in her orphanage for children. I think it's the best thing I can do. Poor Tom, you deserve a better deal than this.
May I come and see you there sometimes, Nadezhda?
Please, don't do that. And please don't write to me. Oh, I'm so sad for you, my darling. You've worked so hard. So hard. You've been unselfish, as I didn't believe any Westerner could be unselfish. And all for what?
For what, my dearest? You mustn't make me out to be a martyr. I've been ignorant and blind many times in my life. But I've been given great privileges. Perhaps more so than any man alive today. For that I shall always be grateful. Nadezhda, you were Connie's sister, the sister of Jacqueline, the teacher. On the fields and farms of England, on the airstrips of the desert and the jungle, in the hangars of the Persian Gulf, on the tarmac of aerodromes in the southern islands, I have talked and walked with God.
In Round the Bend, Stephen Grenfell's adaptation of the novel by Nevil Shute, Ronald Howard played Connie Jacqueline, and Trader Faulkner played Tom Cutter. The rest of the cast was as follows: Nadezhda, Jane Jordan Rogers; Colonel Spencer, Carlton Hobbs; Beryl, Elizabeth Proud; Mrs. Cousins, Anna Burden; Albert Cousins, John Durf; Mrs. Cutter, Cecile Chevreau; Flight Lieutenant Allen, Douglas Hankin; Henry Ford, Basil Jones; Mr. Taverner, Kevin McHugh; Dwight Shafter, John Durf; Bujar Singh, Anthony Hall; Doris, Hilda Schroeder; Hussein, Gerard Green; Major Hereward, Frederick Treves; Morrison, Kevin McHugh; Salim, Preston Lockwood; Dr. Khaled, Roger Snowden; Arjan Singh, Nigel Anthony. The play, which was recorded, was produced by Betty Davies.